railroad. That is it. What is that? Industrial park there by FedEx. That's pretty far from the airport. What were they?
Dorsey.
Yeah, it's a Dorsey Drive. Yeah,
Dorsey?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So were they
Yeah.
just fanning out? What were they doing?
They were trying to find the culprits of this robbery, and
And they got away.
yeah, they've not yet been successful. We posted a
Wow.
video. I'm thinking they're going to be easier to find than you think, because one guy looks like he has a limp and he was wearing identifiable construction clothing. So I think people just
What?
yeah, people just need to look very, very closely, and they'll be able to figure out who these guys are.
Oh, is there a CCTV video? Is that what you put up?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They
I'll
thought
check
they
that
were
out.
smart by interfering with one CCTV camera, but they didn't get them all.
Mm.
So the Border Control Communications Manager yesterday announced that there was a quarantine breach. People are still doing this, believe it or not.
Wait, what?
Yes, quarantine breach. And here's the best part. It was done by a travel Cayman employee.
Employee.
So they're there to enforce these things, and unfortunately for them, they broke the breach.
Of course
and
it was.
Wow.
CMR sources have indicated that this person's also a former police officer. You
Come
go
on.
you can't make this stuff up.
The rules do not apply to me.
I know. And so now they have no job. They've been separated from their travel Cayman job.
Mm.
And, they've been fined by the police as well. As we would say here in this program, what a hot mess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, can we go back to the robbery? Do we know what
Yes.
they took, how much money they took, etc.?
I do know, but we're kind of keeping it on the down low a little bit, some of the details. But
Okay.
it wasn't a substantial amount. It's a small loan business that does like kind of cash to payday type of loans. So there was some quantity of cash on hand.
Didn't even know that was over there.
Yeah.
I need the video.
Okay.
And a big shout out to Sharon Rolston. She's the Cayman Islands newly appointed
I saw
ombudsman.
I think that's amazing. I think that's
Yeah.
a great appointment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
She's been working in that office for a minute. She did a brief secondment over at immigration before returning back to the ombudsman's office. So we are very, very pleased to congratulate her this morning.
mhm.
What happened to the other guy?
Sandy retired, or Sandy left the jurisdiction. She was a woman. Sandy.
Yeah, it was Sandy.
Sandy.
No, there's other people that work there too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a full
The
it's a full
head,
office.
yeah.
I see.
This is just the ombudsman, like
Yeah.
the top person.
The main
That was a
odd
guy.
ombudsman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it was a girl that was still ahead of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
there
right.
was a lady who was a Canadian lady named Sandy.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So the 2022 Young Musician of the Year, which was initially scheduled for the John Gray Performing Arts Center, has been moved to the Cayman Islands Baptist Church for 6:30 p.m. on Saturday, April the 2nd. So that's tomorrow. So please, if you are attending that event, make a note of the venue change. And finally, our GDP had a decline. So this is some information that's coming out of the Economic and Statistics Office based on all the statistical information that they compile. So GDP saw a decline in the economy as it contracted by 5.7%. And this is a significant decline. And I think it's the first time in about 7 or 9 years that we've seen no positive growth. So, of course, I think everybody was expecting it with the whole COVID situation and, tourism taking a hit and many other businesses also being impacted by that. Big shout out to students who participated this weekend in the robotics competition. This was by Minds Inspired. So that's a DART organization that really tries to support young people in all their positive initiatives. And this was the first tech challenge, and it was held on Saturday. And they were competing for accuracy and speed. So 80 students from across 5 high schools in the Cayman Islands designed, built, programmed, and operated robots to compete in the inter-school tournament. And so, yeah.
Cool.
Mhm.
I want to see that, that TV show where they used to do Robot Wars. We should get that
Mm.
going here in Cayman. Everyone had to build their robot
I
and
like
they had
that.
to fight each other. That'd be
Yes.
fun.
So
They were
this
mostly,
was a lot of fun. There was like 10
older adults.
rounds. And, yeah. So it came down to, there was an alliance in the final match between 2 teams, Cayman International School, one against an alliance between John Gray High School and Triple C. So CIS is a tournament champion. So congratulations to them.
Very
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, good stuff. Young people doing positive things. We love to see it.
absolutely.
That's your news headlines for the day. Happy Friday. Happy April the 1st.
Yep.
All right. You can catch Sandy's show coming on in about 3 minutes on Bobo 89.1 FM. And have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Thank you. All right, my good people. There seems to be something wrong with the Facebook feed this morning. Ugh. I'll tell you what is going on. It says you're now live. Ugh. Facebook is trying to implement new security. When I saw only 18 people online, I'm like, what's going on here? Thank God I'm paying attention. I caught it beforehand. But yes, Facebook is trying all kind of fancy stuff on us about, oh, we're going to be implementing something to protect you. I'm like, right. What's going to protect me from Facebook? That's the thing that I want to be protected from sometimes. But apparently, yeah, Facebook has some new fandangle thing going on where they said protect yourself. So we're waiting on 7:30 to go ahead and start the conversation. I got some tea this morning because it's going to be a hot day here in the studio. In the meantime, let's enjoy a little bit of music, our national song. And then at 7:30, we will start live on the radio.
The views and opinions expressed by the following program and its participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Bobo 89.1 FM and DMS Broadcasting respective stations. The program participants' opinions are based upon information they consider reliable and based on their knowledge.
Peppermint, sorrel, ginger, beaver grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter.
Ooh, honey child.
On the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening in the local community. Just keep sipping your tea.
What a mess.
Here's your host, live and direct from the Cayman Islands, Sandy Hill.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Cayman. How is everyone doing? Thank you guys so much for tuning into the program. What a beautiful Friday. Happy Friday, first and foremost. Don't forget, folks, there's more than one way to listen to the program now. Of course, you can listen direct on Bobo 89.1 FM. You can also listen on our YouTube and Facebook channels if you're close to a computer and have no data issues and you'd like to see my face in the mornings. And I suppose you're going to see a lot of interesting expressions this morning on my face. We have a very serious conversation that we're going to be having. And yes, you can always go back if you missed a show, if you missed an episode, go back and check it out on our social media platforms. So they stay up indefinitely. So yes, I know sometimes you guys are working hard for your money and you miss out on things. And we have a serious, super serious conversation to be having this morning. So where do we begin? Well, let me do a couple general comments first. Somebody says they can't hear me. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let's make sure that we are. I'm not being heard on the radio. Okay, hold on one second here, folks. Give me a second to see what is going on. Sound. All right, so we're good there. We're good with input. All right, let me just try to refresh. So strange. Can anybody hear me? Please select destination below. Okay, give me 1 second here. I think that my destination has disappeared, actually. All right, fear not. We're going to get it sorted. Okay, I think it's just a connection and a connection situation on the other end. So I'm going to just have them check that for me. Okay. All right, let's give them a few minutes. And in the meantime, let's, yeah, that's okay. All right, so they're gonna check it and see what's going on. Yeah, everything is connected, you know, folks. So internet based. Oops. Okay, I'm getting tons of messages that you guys can't hear me on radio. So let's just give it a minute and I think they'll get that sorted out and we'll restart that intro. All right, these things happen sometimes. And I can assure you that they're on top of it right now. Because undoubtedly we had tons of people who were like, ooh, I'm tuned in today on Bobo 89.1. I feel like somebody needs to do a little smooth Bobo 89.1. Let's get ready. Good morning, my beautiful people. Rise and shine. Now, don't be making fun of me because I can't sing, because everybody knows I cannot sing. My friends used to, oh, it's hot in the studio today. My friends used to make fun of me, girl, you can't even carry a tune. I'm like, Want to hear something really, really funny? I think my internet's okay. This is really funny, but I used to have dogs. You guys know that. My dog, my two dogs, their names were Oscar and Rupert. And they, I don't know why my thing keeps switching cameras. My dogs, Oscar and Rupert, were really, really kind of funny. Like they had their own individual characters, right? So when I would attempt to sing, you guys are going to find this hilarious. One dog in particular, Rupert, he would join in on the singing and he would start howling like nobody's business. And I always thought, is that a good sign? I mean, does that mean that they're enjoying the music, enjoying my attempts at singing? Even in the shower, I'd be like belting out some song and the dogs would be like, oh, and then I'm like, I don't know if I should be insulted by this or what. Is it really that bad? Virtuous, good morning. Evelyn, good morning. All fixed. All right, let's do it again. Let's rewind. Here we go. Ready for the radio.
Peppermint, sorrel, ginger, fever grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter.
Ooh, honey child.
On the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening in the local community. Just keep sipping your tea.
What a mess.
Here's your host, live and direct from the Cayman Islands, Sandy Hill.
Good morning, Cayman. Rise and shine. My apologies for the little radio glitch this morning. Modern technology, when it works, is fantastic. When it doesn't, well, we fix it quickly. But we are all good to go. Happy Friday, folks. Happy April the 1st as well. I don't know how many of you get into the April Fool's jokes. I don't have time for that. But I think it's funny how people are always trying to prank each other. But we got a serious conversation to talk about this morning, folks. And when I tell you that I wish this hot mess that's happening at the port was an April Fool's joke, but this is serious. I mean, our ports are a point of entry. So let me preface today's discussion by saying, first of all, that you guys know I love the Cayman Islands and I love my people. But I'm also very much aware of our shortcomings when we need to pull up our pants and do better. And, you know, for many, many years now, we've been throwing around this term of accountability. Oh, you know, we need people to understand accountability. We need a government that understands accountability. Well, that's all fine and dandy, except, we actually need every single person to appreciate and understand accountability. It's not just the higher ups. It's just not the government. It starts at an individual level. It starts at private sector. It's public sector. It's the civil servants. Everyone has to be held to the same standards as far as I'm concerned. And I'm disappointed when I have certain expectations of individuals that they're going to do the right thing and then they don't. But you know what is so interesting about that? I'm not a person who is necessarily surprised when people don't do the right thing. I almost expect it because some of it is human beings just being who they are. And if they feel like they can get away with something, they're going to get away with it and they're going to do it. And that is why all of us have a responsibility, quite frankly, to keep a super keen eye on the powers that be and each other. Now, I know how some of y'all think. You're like, oh my Lord, always in everybody's business. And yeah, we are. But that's the way that we help to keep everybody accountable, quite frankly. And so, you know, I don't take offense when people say that. I think that's a great thing. Thank you. We're nosy. Yeah, good. We know what's going on in this country. Fantastic. More of you need to know what's happening in this country, because if you did, sometimes you would be entirely shocked and surprised. As some of my friends would say, you're going to get a surprisation. Well, some of y'all might be shocked to hear some of the details of what's been happening at the port. Now, the other thing that I want to make very, very clear, you know, is I always try to be fair and balanced in my comments. And so I try to seek out alternative sources. You know, people come to you oftentimes with an agenda. And I say it all the time, especially politicians. Politicians always have an agenda. They're trying to make themselves look good. That's normally their number one agenda. And again, that's human nature. I get it. So everything a politician says to me, I take with a grain of salt, and my eyes are always open. You know, I'm paying attention, because your words are fine, but your actions speak, as those old folks would say. You know, your actions speak volumes, much louder than any word you could ever express to me. And so sometimes they come in the program and they say things that sounds good. And I'm sitting there going, Somebody said to me, Sandy, I know you know. Whenever I hear you saying, I mean, I don't know if I'm completely believing this BS that I'm hearing, but I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I go away and I, check my resources, and I check this source and that source, and I check sources that I know that have competing interests because I want to hear what the other side has to say. Because you can learn a lot from people when they're on the other side of a situation, what they say about their opponent. And that's important. Well, I had a lady call me yesterday and she said, Miss Sandy, my baby daddy is not supporting my child. She gave me this long drawn out story. She wants to come on the show. I said, honey, check me on Monday. Because today's conversation will be dedicated solely to the Cayman Islands Port Authority. Now, I believe it was on Tuesday's show. The Minister of Tourism and Transport came on. He heard me talking about the port. And I can't recall the exact words that I used, but I said that it was a hot mess. It was having issues. And in some respects, the port is failing. Now, of course, he's responsible for the port. So I know that he would feel perhaps insulted by those comments, or he would feel a way about it. That why on earth would Sandy say that? The port, people get up and they work every single day and they work so hard and, all this wonderful stuff. And that's true. And I never meant that the port is not operating at all. What I mean is when you see some of the details that we're about to share here, the port could be operating so much better. Operational inefficiencies is something that costs the people of this country money. Potentially people's lives. And this is one area that a lot of people are simply not considering because it hasn't happened yet. Now, here's the thing. Prevention is better than cure any day. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I think that's the saying. But at the end of the day, folks, if we cannot get it together at the port, I assure you that it's only a matter of time before we're going to have a tragic incident that is going to, we've already had tragic incidents that have gotten people harmed and that have been downplayed. And you guys don't know how bad the safety issues are at the port. But one of these days, somebody's going to lose their life, and it's probably going to be Caymanian because largely it's Caymanians working at the port. And then somebody going to sue government, and we're going to be going back and forth. How did this happen? Well, I'm here to say, folks, that we can do something now to prevent that from happening. We can put measures in place to get the port in tip-top shape. And that's not where the port is right now. Let's break it down. Where do we begin? Well, let's begin with a staff letter that has been sent out by the port employees. I believe that's a perfect starting point. Then we're going to do a little bit of a historical review of, what has happened at the port and how did we even get where we are? Because some people think, oh, the port has been working fine for a while. And they honestly don't have a clue. And it surprises me, to be honest, how many people are clueless about what is happening in the port. And I mean, well-connected people, right? They just don't know. And as the saying goes, what you don't know, you think can't hurt you, but that is fake security. What you don't know will hurt you. Here's the letter. It was sent on, I believe, Sunday to the port directors. Now, we have a new set of people running the port, and I know some of them are concerned about the reputational damage that they will incur because they're saying it's not every board member that has, acted unprofessionally at times or made really poor decisions. And some people on the board don't have a moral compass. And that's not a question, that's an opinion. And I would even go as far as arguing it's also a matter of fact. And you know who you are. You know what your moral compass is, because some of you have a very long history of doing things that indicate to me that you think politics is a game. And to you, this is just an extension of politics, being a board member. I'll tell you in the end what I think needs to happen. So this letter is dated March the 29th. I believe that was Sunday. And here we go. Actually, that was 29th was Tuesday. My apologies. It says it's addressed to the board of directors Miss Elizabeth McField's continuation as Port Director of the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands. This letter is being sent on behalf of the employees of the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands, the majority of whom have been employed by the port since 2005. Since the removal of Mr. Hurlston as director, we found a downward spiral in the quality of leadership, which has resulted in feelings of stress and disappointment. In addition, the staff feels demoralized due to the lack of appreciation by the leadership. We have written numerous letters and contacted various politicians via phone calls and even visits to their homes, asking for their help to fix the problem. Sadly, however, PACI continues to be plagued with this deplorable human resources issue. This is my commentary now. That's but one issue, but let's continue. It was impossible for employees to see the light at the end of the tunnel until the arrival of Miss Elizabeth McField. Though there is still a long ways to go to correct all the problems debilitating PACI, we are starting to feel the winds of change and some whispers of hope. My tweetum. The excellence in leadership that Ms. McField has demonstrated in the past 6 months has surpassed any pretense of management that the past directors displayed in the last 12 years. Wow. She has been a breath of fresh air and an asset to the organization. To lose her will be a significant step backwards for PACI with long-term repercussions. The work environment she has fostered at PACI has made us feel more like family, something we were unable to say for over 16 years. For 12 years, we were lied to, manipulated, threatened, ignored, unappreciated, and emotionally beaten and battered. And we are sick and tired of being ignored by the government and the board of directors. This is our formal declaration that we, the PACI staff, want and will fight to keep Ms. McField. On her first day in office, Ms. McField told us that we are champions and nation builders. She has spent the last 6 months treating us as exactly that, proving to us that those were not mere words of flattery or manipulation to obtain a desired income, but a statement of fact and titles to which we... Where's the rest of the letter? Hold on now. Seems like page 2 is missing. 1 second now. I think that's, why is page 2 missing? All right, let me see if I can quickly find it. But I think you guys get the gist of what the letter is all about. And it was signed by quite a significant number of employees. Let me just see if this version, I think they sent to more than one. Oh, yes. Okay, so it continues. But a statement of fact and titles to which we should aspire. Her actions and words of encouragement have revived us mentally, physically, and spiritually, and motivated us to live up to the vision of us that she has. Our work performance and our attitudes have improved. We're starting to feel proud of the important work that we do here at the Port Authority. In December 2021, we asked the minister and the board to extend Ms. McField's acting role. Interesting. A request which was kindly granted. Since then, Ms. McField continues to prove that she's more than capable of effectively steering this organization, utilizing empathetic, supportive, and firm leadership. There have been rumors that she's not doing a good job and has made things worse at PACI. However, we, the staff, can state categorically that there's no truth to these rumors. In fact, we're asking that she remain in the post permanently. Please accept this letter as our official request to the Honorable Minister, Kenneth Bryan, and the PACI Board of Directors that Ms. Elizabeth McField be formally appointed as Port Director of the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands. Due to the time constraints, we've not been able to get signatures from all staff. However, the following PACI staff members listed have confirmed their agreement and authorization to be included in this letter. And it had at least 60 staff members sign it. Now, I don't know how many people work at the port. It's a significant number. So trust me. It's a hot mess. All right. So let's start there. And then I want us to delve into some details. So I saw this letter, and you guys know that I think it was Sunday evening that we actually did an article about the fact that the current acting director, which is Elizabeth, aka Beth Macfield, would no longer be continuing in that role. And in fact, a young man, maybe probably not so young, I'm sure he's been a civil servant for a long time, Bravon Elliott, would be moving into the role instead. Now, I want to talk about this because this is a problem. When we put the story up, apparently we were never supposed to have gotten that story. This was some kind of secret deal, is what I'm now understanding. And the powers that be, and we need to try to figure out who they are, made this decision to move Bravon Elliott. He is actually the deputy over the Cayman Islands Fire Service Airdrome Division. So he's in charge of that section. They decided to move him into the Port Authority and offer him this acting job with a view, let me be very, very clear, with a view to staying in the position permanently. How does this happen? It is very, very interesting, in fact, because they did not go through the correct protocol. Remember some months ago, there was an Auditor General's report about the previous administration, the progressives, and how decisions were made in relation to certain positions. Mind you, they went through a recruitment process, but there were some questions about the timing and about a couple of things that looked very, very suspicious happening during an election cycle and all this sort of thing. And we talked about the importance on this program of, number one, following the law and going through the correct procedure. When you don't do that, everyone questions what follows from it. How is it that Bravon Elliott, and this has nothing to do with him, his name could be Derek Ebanks, it could be Sandra Hill, it doesn't matter who it is. But how does he go from being deputy of Airdrome to on the verge? Apparently he hadn't signed his contract yet, but he'd been offered the position, had accepted it, was about to sign when our article dropped, right? And the deputy governor doesn't seem to know anything about this secondment. Well, the problem is it's actually not a secondment, because in order for it to be a secondment, you have to get approval. So when they would have approached Miss Beth Macfield, they would have went to her ministry. She works for Border, Border and whatever, you know which one I mean, Border Control, whatever that ministry is. That's Chris Saunders. So they would have went to the chief officer and said, we're interested in taking Miss Beth Macfield. Can we have her for 3 months? They would have said yes or no. They would know her workload, what she's working on. Could they loan her? They got to say yes or no. Now, the position with secondments, and this is coming, from an informed position, is that secondments are given. So this is what I have here, because on Tuesday's show, when the minister came on, he made a statement that is completely incorrect when he said, I want to be very clear, the minister is just misinformed, but he said that when someone comes from core government, so the Port Authority is an authority. So when they do a secondment from core government, they can't do it for more than 6 months. Well, that's a completely incorrect and inaccurate statement. Now, I don't know where he got that from, but I'm willing to bet, if I was a betting woman, and I'm not, I would be willing to bet that he got it from the board itself. So this was the excuse that they would have told him why after 6 months, we've done 3 months, we've done one extension for Beth. We cannot do another extension because it's not allowed, because she's coming from the core civil service and that's against the law. Well, that is a lie. If somebody told the minister that, and I do believe that's how he came to that, to make that statement and came to that conclusion, someone has lied to you, minister. And if they have lied to you about that, why they didn't extend her contract, you need to ask yourself why. People normally lie for a reason. And it normally has to do with getting something that they want. So they made this backdoor deal with Bravon Elliott, and poor him, Maybe he didn't know the rules. And I mean, he's been in the civil service long enough where I kind of thought he would have known the rules. You don't go through your ministry. You don't speak to your chief officer. Who does fire fall under? I don't even know. Is that the premier? But you don't do any of that. And you're about to sign a contract with the Port Authority to become the next acting director of the port. And you didn't think, why is this so secretive and hush hush? Let me sip some of my hot tea this morning. You know, normally in the mornings I have water, but I had to get me some peppermint tea this morning. So that statement by the minister had me thinking, is that correct? And so I started asking people who would know. So I said, question for you, the concept of a secondment, is there a limit for how long that can last, say from central government to an authority? The response was, good morning, normally 6 months to a year. But technically, there is no limit. Secondments in the civil service are used for development and training. I said, thanks for the clarification. And then I asked a follow-up question, and the response was secondments are not in the law. Because I'm like, is this in the law somewhere? Could the minister, despite him being told one thing, could have gone and checked the law? And apparently there's no law that speaks to secondments. It was developed by my team. Now, this is the deputy governor who's provided this information to facilitate training opportunities for Caymanians. There's no end dates for secondments, but normally it's for 6 months or a year. If the reason for the secondment is to fill an existing post and not necessarily a training opportunity, we would expect the secondment should be short to allow competition for the post. So in other words, you advertise it like, would be normal. So they moved Mr. Bravon then into this position, didn't do a secondment, didn't request one, didn't tell his ministry that we would like to have him come over, nothing. Why? So CMR drops the story that he's going to be the next port director. What do they start doing? They start scrambling. Oh my God, how did Sandy know this? Instead of them looking at the substantive issue, which is why are you not following correct procedure here? And our article wasn't even about that. We were just announcing he's going over there. But then everybody becomes aware that we got a problem. If the premier of this country and other high-ranking officials are reading CMR and they're learning something completely new and they have no clue what is going on here, you know something wrong. Jared, I see you, but you're going to be on the back burner here today because I'm nowhere close to being done with what is going on at the port. So then they start scrambling. Oh my God, what is this? And I can tell you that what has been done to Bravon is completely the wrong way to do it. Now let's back up because this got me to thinking, why? Why would they do it the wrong way? What's the big deal? Going through the correct procedures, everybody should have to adhere to that. Well, let's remember the article that I wrote about when Mr. Rankin, remind me of his first name now, who's going to be the next fire chief designate, when he was given the position of designate fire officer, chief fire officer. Randy, yes? All right, that was about a month ago. And when that article came out, folks, if you read past the first paragraph, you would see that one of the issues, yes, is that the others, including Mr. Bravon, I think there's Bravon, a lady named Tina, and somebody else, the three of them were supposed to have been trained to take over the top position. So, of course, they had an expectation that they would be getting the position. And what I know is so this was January the 19th that this story went up. What I know is that appointment and the fact that those three didn't get it was causing some friction at the Cayman Islands Fire Service. So what was happening is that Mr. Bravon and the other two who were told, and this is fair point from their perspective, that they were being trained to take over that chief position, all of a sudden they're like, well, how the hell did Randy get the job? but it's a competitive recruitment. So yes, you're being groomed and you're being trained, but that doesn't mean you're going to get the job. You've got to perform. You've got to do an interview. You've got to do all of these things. So my understanding is that some people didn't quite perform as well as they were expected to on their interview, et cetera, et cetera. And then they get pissed off. Well, when they get pissed off, they start to call politicians. And politicians, despite the fact that they know they're not supposed to interfere in any way, shape, or form in the civil service, they continually say, oh, we don't hire, we don't fire, we don't promote, whatever. Sometimes they try to be more than shady and they try to interfere. And it's not their jobs. So I know for a fact that Bravon was upset and he would have spoken to people like Mr. Bernie Bush. And Bernie was probably like, Bravon, I don't know what happened, but that's not right. And then, by the way, I've just noticed that I don't have my phone here to take your calls. So I'm going to grab that here in a second because some of y'all might want to jump into the conversation at some point. But then, you know, things start to happen. What I know is this much. Not only was procedure not followed, but on top of it, the minister, not the Minister of Transport and Tourism, but the Minister of Culture, Sports, and so on, the Honorable Mr. Bush, was calling staff this week after the story came out because staff hit the roof. They're like, what? Who the hell's Bravon? Why is he coming over here? Why are you guys not keeping Beth? And so Bernie starts to make some phone calls to staff and say, okay, y'all need to calm down a little bit. Bravon's a good guy. He's making the case for Bravon. And at the same time, he starts to throw Beth under the bus. Well, you know, if Beth really cared about you guys, she would stay on in a deputy position. But hold on a second here. What? There's been no recruitment for the deputy position. She wasn't offered the deputy position, to the best of my knowledge, right? So what is it that you're trying to say? And Beth would be, let me say this as a bit of commentary, Beth would be a fool to stay on in that deputy position because you know what that is? They're just looking for a workhorse to do all the work and continue to make the staff happy and make the new director, whoever that's going to be, happy and looking good. And she's going to be doing probably the same work she would have done as port director if she wanted the position. Now, let me say one other thing. Liar, liar, pants on fire. When the board said, and they seem to be going back and forth a lot, claiming all sorts of stuff, that, oh, we took a vote on it and you know, we voted not to extend her contract beyond the 6 months. Oh, no, it's impossible. We can't do it. Now they're backtracking because they realize that we're not that stupid. And all of those lines of, you know, commentary and statements are lies. Now they're like, well, we never requested a third extension. I guess technically it'd be a second extension for her to remain on because we didn't think we would get it because normally the secondment is only for 6 months. But you see, a secondment can last for up to a year. In fact, I can point to secondments that have lasted for years, way beyond that. Granted, they may have been within the organization already, but a secondment is a secondment. Now, here's the thing about Bravon that has me extremely confused. And then, Jared, I'll let you come on and have a few comments while I step away and grab the studio phone. But here's my question. How do you take Bravon Elliott from an important role, an important safety role, right? Deputy of Aerodrome. You know how important that role is for the fire service? How do you have the nerve, the audacity to remove Mr. Bravon from that position, not even tell the ministry, and you're going to leave a role that is critical to the safety of the Owen Roberts Airport completely open, and don't tell anybody and just move him, and you think that that's okay? Y'all must be crazy over at that port board. I mean, honestly, I cannot believe it. This is shocking on so many different levels. I hear now even the governor is like, what? And perhaps he's now going to be launching an investigation into how this happened. Because remember, constitutionally and legally, the governor has full responsibility for the civil service. And then he designates that responsibility to the deputy governor, Mr. France Manderson. So France does the day-to-day stuff, but there has to be some times when the governor's going to be like, hold on a second, this is not right. Jared, you got about a minute. Say what you got to say, because when I come back, I got to pull you back out, honey child.
Yeah, I don't know, it must be rubbing these 2-month season that we in, but first and foremost, good morning to the people in Grand Cayman, Kimmerbrock, and Little Cayman. But get into the meat of the matter. When the minister, because I was there on Tuesday, he had said what he had to say. I knew it wasn't true, first and foremost, because we have people in the core government, chief officers, who be acting, whilst it's not secondments, you have people who be acting for a long time. Now, when he said, she didn't apply, Miss Matthew didn't apply, I was like, somebody doesn't have to apply to get a job, especially if it's a senior level job. You just need to go and approach them to say, hey, would you like to stay on? Because this is a phenomenal woman who has the experience to back it up. If you see that she doing a good job, as opposed to the other previous directors, why should she have to apply? She is doing the job.
Everybody has to apply.
But yeah, okay.
There's a process. There's a process. All right.
There's a process. All right.
Let me pull you back out, because I got so much to go through this morning, and quite frankly, folks, it's a lot. All right. So the proverbial somebody left documents on my what do we call it now? On the windshield. When somebody want you to get something and they want to do it anonymously, that's how it's done, huh? Well, guess what I got in my little hands, Lord have mercy. I have some documents, folks. Y'all want to see? Acting Port Director's Interim Report and other documents. We will spare no detail this morning when I explain to you how bad the situation is at the port. So good morning to all of you. Tommy, good morning, joining us from overseas. Andy is here. Aliano, Tracy says April Fool's Day has been the past 3 years. Well, we're no fools here at CMR, so I want to talk to you all about some cold, hard truth this morning. KK says, what a real hot mess. Now it will go downhill. He should have stayed in the fire service. To the best of my knowledge, he's not yet signed his contract as a result of our article coming out, because the correct procedure was never followed. So right now, this morning, does that mean that the Cayman Islands port does not have a port director? How does that work? Because the port director is supposed to be signing off, although it's somewhat a formality, but still it's an important one, when ships and other boats and so on are coming in. So who's signing off this morning if there's no port director? Jody says it's sad. Port is truly in a mess, and Ms. McField was the best thing to happen to that authority. Well, we're going to talk about it. Darlene says maybe in this situation, they did not go through the HR department, head of department, the ministry, or a deputy governor. Well, they didn't. My sources have told me that France Manderson didn't even know anything about this appointment. How can that be? He's head of the civil service. What? KK says the way that Ms. Beth operates with those guys and treats them, listen, my hat goes off to her. This is very sad. He needs to stay his, over at fire service because he's useless and slow. Well, I don't know anything about Mr. Bravana. Like I said, I'm not trying to impinge on his character in any way, shape, or form. I don't know the man. I don't know anything about his work ethic. He could be perfect as a fire service. What I'm saying is the procedure was not followed. And I want to know why there was political interference. Why is it that Minister Bush, Bernie Bush, that is alleged to be calling the staff over at the fire service, telling them stuff and getting involved in this recruitment process? You know why? Because Bravon is upset that he didn't get the chief position. And he's been talking to these politicians. Oh, this wasn't fair. This, that, and the next thing, I can sue government. We ask for a review, blah, blah, blah. And somebody must be scared over there. I don't know who and why, because if that was a transparent process, what is the issue? Right? So the solution then is to move him from fire, put him over at port so he can be head of something. It looks like it doesn't matter what you're head of or what your experience and qualifications are. Oh yeah, just slip him into acting director post with the intention that they will permanently give him the job. I know what's going on. And this is disgusting. The board has collective responsibility and they should be ashamed of themselves. And I know it's not every board member that's in agreement with how this has been handled. How do you undermine people in the civil service like that? How do you call port staff? It's not even your ministry. I mean, I would have been less surprised if it was Kenneth Bryan that was doing that. It wasn't even him. What are you doing? Because people talk and it gets back to people. These guys love Beth so much that the second you start telling them, but oh, you know, if she really cared about y'all, she would take a deputy job and blah, blah, blah. You didn't think they would go back to her and say, Miss Beth, you hear what's going on around you? I have an 18-page report because there's some members of the board. I wish I had this in PDF format so I could bring this up on the screen, but we can work with it. There's some members of the board, folks, who thought that when they brought on Beth McFeel that she was going to be their lackey. And that's all they were looking for. Because you see, one of the reasons that Joey Wood is leaving the port is because of board members. And he said it in his resignation letter, that there were 2 board members that they kept on from the last administration that are nothing but pure trouble for him. And he was just fed up. And after it must be almost 3 decades in the, you know, at the port or whatever, he was done. He's like, I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm finished with this. I refuse to work with this board anymore because it's impossible to accomplish anything with these board members. They're micromanaging. They think they're the director of the port, et cetera, et cetera. So when they brought in Beth, they thought, ooh, goody. We got this little girl from Georgetown. Ooh, she gotta be so easy to control. Little did they know. She's a professional in her own right, huh? Master's degree in human resources, double major, strong management background. So they had a direction and initiatives, and you do this. And I think ultimately they wanted to make sure that she got rid of certain people, which they might have resigned once the ship started to shape up a little bit. And then, okay, we're done with you. You're no longer useful to us. It's time for you to go. And because she wasn't as a lackey, like what they thought a lap dog, they realized that, oh, wow, she has a mind of her own. She's not going to just, when we say jump, she's not going to say how high. What? They start to undermine her, and they're going out in the streets because I've heard it. Oh, Miss Beth is lazy. She's this, she's that. She's not working. She's not working hard. They even start to question her previous experience, all this stuff, which is absolutely disgusting. They start to do. And they put it out in the streets because, like I said, this is the Mall Road after all, and we hear a lot of different things. So when I have people who don't even know Beth messaging me and making comments about her performance at the port and how she not did nothing and she not this and she not that, I was like, what? Where do you get this from? I said, what do you mean? Let me have you listen to some of the comments, right? Things like, I heard she's dumb and don't know what she's doing. And then I say, and I can personally tell you what the mess is that she created at the port. And I respond with a double major and master's degree, I doubt that she's dumb. In 6 months, she created a mess? Let's be honest. A mess has been there from before Clements Reed even left. This is what I said. And according to the workers, has never been fixed. This is the happiest that they've been. This was a Sunday conversation after the article dropped at 7:30 p.m. Then the person in terms of the degrees says, well, look at Dr. Frank. He got more degrees than a thermometer. Shade. But okay. And I said, yeah, but let's remember that Joey Woods, is leaving because of the board. So if there is a mess, the real question is, where is the mess? Now they want to put this whole mess at the port that has been happening, according to the staff, for over 16 years at the foot of Beth McField? Not today, Bobo. Not today. And she come there and she not doing nothing? Oh, I know which board member would have been out there spewing these negative and completely inaccurate things. So not doing anything would have meant that the 18-page acting port director's interim report that was submitted after less than 1 month on the job, basically. She submitted it in October, and it was from September the 25th, the day she hit the ground running, to October the 20th. An 18-page report, you can tell me is doing nothing? Well, let's have a look at what nothing means, right? Let's see all the nothing that she was doing. I also want to remind you all of her remit. When she came on board, do you guys remember? Because we actually broke the story too of her being appointed. Hold on here now. Let me just look this story up, because this is when she was appointed. The ministry made a statement, because we had the story up already, and then they came back and made the statement. So we went back, read their report, filled in the blanks, and they made a statement. Here we go. Their words, not mine. That while the operation, this is Klein Glidden, the chairman of the board, has said, while the operation of the port has been effectively maintained, there have understandably been issues in the administration and HR areas, some of which have been highlighted in the Auditor General's reports. Pause. But yet Beth McField created issues? Even the Auditor General's reports have talked about the issues? But now board members want to blame Beth McField? Y'all got to be crazy. You need to stop throwing the civil service under the bus, especially when it is not justified. He goes on to say, we have immediately started the recruitment process for the position of port director, and in the interim have appointed Ms. Beth McField, who is a highly qualified in HR and business administration, as the acting director for a 3-month period during the recruitment process. He goes on to say that McField is to concentrate on correcting the HR and administrative deficiencies. Boom. The operational side, my apologies, of the port will continue under the capable staff that have been there. Right. So you give her a limited remit of HR and administrative deficiencies to focus on. You don't talk about safety. You don't talk about the plethora of lawsuits that the port is facing that y'all have been keeping hush-hush. And all these other things that any proper director would go in there and be like, okay, I know my remit is supposed to be HR and administrative deficiencies, but there's way more wrong here at the port than that. Okay, let's see how much is wrong. According to the Port Authority 2020 organizational chart attached at Appendix 1, I don't think this has any appendix. I don't think this has any attachments. This is just the 18-page report, right? You have 18 vacancies at least at the port, and it has since increased. Port Director, Deputy Director of Administration, Deputy Director of Finance and Facilities, Manager of Budget, Reporting, Inventory, Fixed Assets Procurement, Manager of Accounts Payable, Facility Laborers, HR Manager, Senior HR Officer, Safety Officer, Fleet Manager, Manager of Night Cargo, Cayman Brack, Tally Clerk and Laborer, Security Officers, Assistant Crane and RTG Mechanic, Night Crane Operator. Wow. No chief financial officer role in the organization. In this acting port director, there's a summary of key activities. So when they're trying to throw this woman under the bus, talking about she's lazy and she there and she not doing nothing, let me show y'all what she was doing. She was meeting with staff, some of them for the first time, talking about they've never had a staff meeting in years. You see all this? Like I said, I wish I had this electronically, but you know, when somebody trying to send you something anonymously, sometimes they just drop it on the car. This is what she was doing, but the board, some board members now, because it's going to suit their agenda, talking about she wasn't doing nothing. Well, it seems to me that she was doing quite a bit in less than a month. She had meetings with staff by section. Jared, come back in because I need to grab. Oh no, I have my notebook here. Never mind. Sorry. I had some additional notes, Chaka. This place is such a hot mess. I had to take out my little blue notebook here and jot down some additional notes for y'all. Wow. All right. So there's that. Okay. Staff shortages. High demand for individual meetings, which was accommodated at this time based on the urgency. The following offers 138 highlights from the discussions held during the section meetings with the CDC operational team and legal matters from the meeting with so-and-so of a particular law firm. It should be noted that the report is for informational purposes with regard to the board and just a collection of observations, opinions, and feelings from the operational side. So at this point, within a month, she had met with some 65 staff members. And again, this is something that the staff members themselves have told me that was not happening prior to Beth Macfield coming on board. Beth Macfield don't have to tell me nothing. She don't have to say anything to me because the staff from last year were messaging me, Miss Sandy, we've never felt like this before. Now, let me be very clear. Staff feeling good and welcomed in an organization and valued is important, but it's not everything. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second, because I'm sure if you've ever been in management, you know that there's far more than just that you're looking at. And you think, well, why not just make her deputy or HR manager? All right. Operations and safety. So here's the thing, folks. She was not there, as you can see from that press release that went out in January. She was not actually there. My apologies. This was September of 2021 when she was appointed in the position, right? She was not, she was only told HR and administrative deficiencies. So technically, Beth should not have been looking at anything to do with health, safety, all the OSHA related matters, right? But can I tell you, she had to call for an immediate safety audit because she found so many issues at the port that in terms of safety were problematic. Now, y'all remember, I want you to pay very close attention here. You guys remember when we did a report back in, oh God, I can't remember when it was, but we said that there was a crane accident where basically a man was, let me see here now. Yes, this was December the 14th. A man was operating the RTG machines, whatever they're called. Those are the big crane machines, right? And he was in it and it fell some, what was it? How high do those things go? It fell at least 9 feet from the air and dropped at the Portland Road location. So all of a sudden now, Beth is scrambling to do a safety audit. Why? Well, let's see what this report says, if it's to be believed. Samples of critical concern under operations and safety. No COVID-19 reporting policies and procedures. No COVID-19 testing policy in general. No COVID-19 testing policy for the unvaccinated. No safety standards, operating procedures, or policies, including for reporting incidents or concerns. Inability to deploy standby teams due to staffing constraints. Per safety manager, 14 would need to be on reserve per day and night shift. Safety manager does not formally and effectively monitor, inspect, or oversee safety issues. No regular hazard management, fire extinguisher training, or refresher training. This is a long list of some 31 points, by the way. I'm not going to read them all because we'd be here all day just talking about safety, but safety is critical. No OSHA training, alarming lack of safety standards. If it is learned that OSHA is coming for an inspection, standards are quickly met and then fall away after the inspectors leave. OSHA should not give notice of arrival. Short staff, work-life balance, short staff. 10% of operational staff are on sick leave or light duties. RTG operational training required. There's only 2 RTG operators, but 8 people actually operate it. So in other words, they're not trained in that capacity, but yet they have them doing a highly technical and potentially dangerous job that they've not really been trained to do, but they're doing it. There was another incident before this December incident as well. And they want to, oh, well, we don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the RTG machines, this and that. It's called this point right here. When you got people operating these machines and you've not given them sufficient training. Here's another one. Safety manager authorizes staff member to drive without a written test first, which trains you how to operate when driving the equipment. Radio systems are problematic as demonstrated to the APD. That's acting port director. So they showed her. They're not transmitting at all times. They're slow to transmit. Both shifts should have their own radios due to the time needed to fully charge, and that's not even happening. The system was used before, was swapped out for a cheaper version that endangers lives. There's been no efficiency checks on the new radios. Wow. Tablets are not made for tropical weather and are not functioning. Wi-Fi speed is so slow and hinders operations most of the time. The heat blanks out the tablets. 1 out of 6 are functional now. Insufficient safety orientation for new operators. Safety manager does not conduct weekly safety meetings and seldom attends. This is done by supervisors. Equipment, vehicles, and machinery should undergo licensing, department, or inspection from an independent body. No fire drill or escape route training in multiple years. The list goes on and on and on. Staff who are in quarantine are asked to report to work. Isn't that against the law? Staff who are in quarantine are asked to report to work. Does not go against the same laws and protocols that the PAC government has put in place, and private sector and everybody else has been told when your staff are COVID positive and in quarantine, they're supposed to stay because it constitutes a breach if they leave. Duties being performed with no formal training and lack of written authorization to perform the role. Like I said, this is an extensive list. 2021 roof workers created spillage with fiberglass, and the CDC staff were breathing in fiberglass, by the way. Staff instructed to clean it with a blower on fiberglass without the proper protection. Safety managers saw this and did nothing to intervene or to investigate. This is ridiculous. Mildew, hazardous materials, insects, and other safety issues not monitored. This is in the containers now, unsafe containers. Made a note here that in the US, these containers would be sent back if not in order at the expense of the customer. But here we are taking them and putting our workers at risk. Wow. That's just safety. We haven't even gotten to critical communication concerns. Let me say something about the safety manager now. I have to go to my side notes here because I know I was speaking to a few people about this issue. Minister, I do see you. I'm coming. All right. So as it relates to, let me see here now. Oh, yes, this was the night manager, right? So they had advertised for this night manager position. And apparently they did an external advert, right? And everybody's wondering, why would you be trying to pull in someone externally from the port when you have all these guys working there? But whatever. So they had at least 5 guys apply, and I'm made to understand that I don't know who ran this ad, but Mr. Joey said, no, we should be able to find people within the port to perhaps, promote to night manager. So the advertisement was pulled for the position. And since then, 5 people have applied. They're putting them in an acting rotation sort of situation. So they act for 2 months. They're getting no acting pay, right? They have no objectives that they're supposed to be meeting in terms of targets while they're acting. Nobody's reviewing their acting time. They've gotten no feedback whatsoever. So essentially, they are using the staff to act in a position as night manager for 2 months at a time. The last one has been there longer than 2 months. And their idea is, we'll just keep rotating you guys out. No acting pay, though. We're not gonna give you that. HR files are being removed from the office and taken to the deputy director's personal house. Now, remember when Chucky did this thing with taking government files and there was this whole investigation and are these criminal charges and blah, blah, blah? Well, it still continues at the port, apparently. No confidentiality. You're transporting official HR and other business files from the port where they're supposed to be to somebody's personal house so they can stay home and work and review stuff. HR files have things that go missing. The guys are complaining. Things are put on their file that they have no knowledge of. So they're fabricating, when they're ready, complaints on these workers. And the workers know nothing about it. Even after they've been fired, resigned, left, or whatever, things miraculously show up on the file. How do they know that? Because the port has a couple lawsuits. We're going to talk about those here in a minute. And then things mysteriously disappear off of the file. The board, let's talk about their board meetings, because they're hiding so much stuff that they can't have a legitimate board meeting where everything is recorded. By the way, when are we going to get to the point where board minutes are automated? They're recorded by a system, not an individual that might leave out keywords and might ignore an entire part of a conversation because it's not going to look good if it's put into the board minutes. Wow. No safety audit since 2017. The former deputy, well, he's leaving, I think. Has he left yet? Well, he's been put on gardening leave, so he's no longer there, right? Was using the vacation approval system to punish and or reward employees. So if he doesn't like you and you come and ask for vacation, oh, yeah, we can't give you vacation during that time. But somebody else that he likes, okay, you'll get it. In the short space that Miss Beth has been there, she has been referred to by that particular manager, that particular deputy, as a black nigger bitch. Staff heard it, and they've reported it to CMR. But yet we think there's nothing wrong with the port. Oh, things are hokey-dory over there. Minister, have it make sense. Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, Sandra. How are you doing?
Boy, I'm good.
Good morning to Cayman and good morning to all your listeners. I see you're in full force this morning talking about something rather important in respect to my area of responsibility. And though I'm off island in the UK dealing with a family matter, I try to stay connected as much as possible with what's happening at home. I want to say thank you so much for continuing to do your job in respect to analyzing and investigating all matters related to any part of the Cayman Islands government, authorities, and government-owned companies. I think it's important, though, that while the narrative that is being sold or told is one of chaos and everything else that goes along with it, many of these things are things that were inherited, I think, which you have acknowledged already, saying that many of the problems were systematic from before I took the responsibility for the place and before we brought on Ms. Macfield to take the responsibilities on. And then, unfortunately, 2 senior members resigning of key positions, and the lack of succession planning even made it worse. I must say, even though we talk about, you know, persons taking documents and not and leaking them and all those other things, it's disappointing that disappointing from the perspective of not trusting the organization to resolve these problems. It's disappointing that a very key document that you were just seeming to have access to, which I haven't even read or
Mhm.
seen myself because I am not directly involved in the running of the port. But for such a severe document that you have in your hand, that means the team within the port isn't um, doing the appropriate process, because for somebody to give you that document, it has to be somebody senior within the port to hand over something so extensive and detailed as to the issues that are being faced at the port. But as you know, I'm not the type of representative to shy away from the realities of what we're facing, and I'm glad that the one positive thing about today's conversation is that people recognize that there's some serious issues that we're trying to address at the port. Um, and I hope that even though there's a lot of negativity being portrayed or being highlighted at the port, that people can be confident that we're going to resolve them. A lot of the things that we couldn't do anything about, um, some things need to be resolved by way of financing, by way of proper recruitment. Lack of succession planning caused a lot of that, and many of the limitations of hiring. So, yes, we can sit this morning and continue to highlight all the negatives, but I would hope that we all recognize that we're in the process of trying to resolve them. There's some things that were said this morning that are not 100% accurate, and I'm not at liberty to discuss them until further notice. I would rather give a full report once I get back home as to what's happening, because I take full responsibility for anything that I've been allocated constitutional duties for. And we want to make sure that we give the country a full plan of action. The employees at the port deserve nothing less than that, and the country as a whole. But particularly as we're trying to get back on our feet financially for crews and the country's whole economy and the government's revenue, some of these things may not be able to be resolved until the monies are available to do so. But everything that needs to be fixed will be fixed step by step. They can't be done overnight. There's just some things that can't be done overnight. Um, and best
16,
best
Minister,
actions. Yeah.
16 years, is that enough time to fix some of these issues?
Say again.
16 years, do you think that would have been enough time to fix some of these issues?
I agree with you that there's a lot of things that were not addressed in the last administration. As you remember, as a member of the opposition, I highlighted many of the problems that were going on, and I asked the former minister about resolution to them. I don't even recall what the responses were, but what you have acknowledged, and I'm happy that you have acknowledged, is that this has been happening for, you know, the last 3 to 4 governments, and the problem just kept on getting worse and getting worse and getting worse. So one thing that that report is highlighting for everybody is that we have to do a fundamental shift in structure and in operations, um, to make sure that we have a port that's running efficiently and the staff there feel comfortable that they're operating or employed in an operation that is going to run efficiently and appropriately in respect to their employee environment. So there's so many things that need to be fixed, like you said, you know, the safety elements, the employment HR elements, the total environment altogether, and the efficiencies of the port. Um, and as you also highlighted, some of those things can't be fixed until we have the appropriate hirings done, and at the same time trying to ensure that there are Caymanians who are capable of doing it. So there has to be that process of either finding people within the authority or persons outside of the authority that may have experience. And we are committed to a Caymanian first approach. That's what I've expressed from the very start of my appointment to the board members, to say, always remember the Cayman first approach. So I've asked them to look either within the authority or within the civil service as Caymanians. And that's not an easy exercise. Hence the reason Miss Beth was brought in, based on the deliberations with me as minister. They have the authority to discuss with me about the hiring of the director, and Beth came with a vast bit of experience in respect to an HR matter, and hence the reason the detailed report. I think the report that you're talking about may have been done by her. Am I correct in that?
Yes, it says acting, what does it say? Acting Port Director's interim report.
Okay, and the only reason I don't know that is because I'm not involved as the minister with the day-to-day running. I am debriefed from the board about what's happening. But what I'm trying to do, and the reason why I called in, is not to stop the process of your examination. There is a role for media, and I respect that role, and I appreciate that role. But what I want to make sure that the country is aware that their minister, Kenneth Bryan, is aware of what's happening, assessing what's happening, and have a plan of action to resolve these things. So there's financially related matters, there's hiring matters that need to be done, there's safety issues that need to be resolved, and many of these things I was debriefed as to things that have already been identified to be resolved. And it's just unfortunate, I must say.
Might I ask you, Minister, identified by whom? Because according to this report, there has not been a safety audit since 2017. Now, the safety of airport workers should be the number one concern of everyone in this community, right? So if there's not been a safety audit since 2017, help me understand how, you're been in for a year now, and the board was, I think, put in 2 months after you got in. So say they've been in, let's just round it up to 9 months, right? How do they not bring to your attention that, Minister, we have a serious situation here and we need to have an immediate safety audit since we've not had one in some 5 years? Why is it that doesn't happen until Beth Macfield comes in as acting port director? And it's only when she becomes aware of things that are happening that she has to go and pull in, my understanding is, an external OSHA expert to come on board and assist with this immediate and urgent safety audit. That, to my mind, that should have been one of the first things that the board would have informed you about once they were appointed, and the first thing that they would have looked at.
Well, I'm not sure if you're getting your ducks in a row there, Beth. Sandra, because
Yes.
the person that would understand those things that need to be done would be the director, the acting director who took the post, not the board. The board doesn't directly deal with the operations. So once Beth or Miss Macfield was selected, that interim report will be.
The director didn't know about safety concerns, and nobody else in the organization was bringing it to the board's attention?
Well, I'm not going to make an assumption that they didn't know, because I don't know. I have no information to say that. One would assume that he should have known. Why, if that was notified to the previous board and the previous board did nothing about it, I don't know. I don't want to speak to that. We can only make some assumptions there. But once she came in just 2 months after the board was selected. So the board wasn't selected until about 3 or 4 months after I became minister. And then once that board was selected, that there was not actually an intention to bring somebody in. The hope and goal was to hire a director and put it out for tender, but then the then acting director resigned, and that's Mr. Wood. And this is the person that you're questioning about whether they knew these things and highlighted to the board. I can't say that. I'm not directly involved in the day-to-day, but there is a lot of assumptions that of failings that were happening that can't be put at the feet of the new board, or at the feet of Miss Beth, or at the feet of myself as minister, because only when you come in and you assess and you get the information that you recognize, and that's what I was saying to you, now that we are aware through these audits or through this report by the now our previously acting director, Miss Macfield, that you find out all of these problems. So now the next course of action is, why weren't these things done before? Why was there not a report done before for us to then action a solution? But throughout all of that process, then you had the resignment of two key posts, which is Mr. Wood and Mr. I forgot his other name.
Joseph or
Will
something.
Jacob. Will Jacob.
Sorry.
So, and these are persons who I understand would have been key individuals, would have been responsible for many of these areas of concern and question that we have today. So, all I'm saying is I am not.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, Kenneth Bryan does not shy away from the reality is of responsibility. If it's
Mm-hmm.
something that needs to be fixed, my job is to fix it on behalf of the people. Simply put, no
All right.
question.
Let me ask you a question.
But let me finish this point. But what needs to be recognized though is that the timing of these things that need to be fixed can only be done within the reality of the timeline that you know. So yes, they are here, and yes, this board will be held accountable by me as minister on behalf of the premier, as I'm his minister for the port, to have these things resolved. Now,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I'm not there now, but as soon as I'm back, I would like
Mm-hmm.
to sit down with the board and say, tell me what's going on, what is the plan of action, because it doesn't look good. So,
And can I
I'm
say
quite
something to you, Minister, with all due respect? I think that it's very possible that whoever you have been talking to in the board has not been quite forthright with you. In other words,
okay. Well, that's an assumption. And okay,
now, one question I have for you, and I do want to get back
when
because
when when you say lying to me, there has to be an assumption of that there's something that has been said to me. What when you say they've been lying to me about what?
Let me ask you a question. When you were on Tuesday, I think it was, you made mention of the fact that Miss Macbeth's tenure could not be extended past 6 months. Who told you that?
I don't think that it's necessarily appropriate for us to have that discussion here. But if you want to, hold on, Beth. Hold on.
You keep calling me
Sandra. I apologize. Sandra, if you would like to know the proper process on secondments, you can happily call the DG and he can explain that process.
And the DG has said that's not correct at all.
Okay. Well, if that is theoretically incorrect, I will.
Informed you.
Okay, well,
there's no law
fine.
that talks about secondments. All right. Let's leave that question aside.
Well, what I can promise you, Sandra, is if that is incorrect or regulatorily incorrect, I will address that appropriately. Right. Okay. So there's one thing about the truth is it never can hide, and neither can a lie hide. So we will address that. You know what I'm saying? And when that time comes. So
why is there political interference and no correct procedure being followed with the appointment of the new acting port director, Mr. Bravon Elliott? Why is that happening in the way in which it's happening? Why is the board?
Well, I categorically disagree with what you just said, because that's not factual. What in respect to the proper procedures not being followed?
He went through the correct procedure of requesting a secondment?
Yes.
Well, that's a lie.
Correct. Well, I disagree with you.
Whoever told you that, and I'm not about to name names, but at the highest ranks in your own government, you need to go talk to some people. Because there's a reason why after article came out on Sunday night that they were scrambling Monday morning into Tuesday and trying to speak. And there's a reason why the governor has an eye in the situation, because that was not done. If the deputy governor can tell government ministers that he knew nothing about this, the proper procedure was not followed.
Okay, Sandra, if you want to listen, I can explain to you quite clearly how things work so you can understand, right? Now, because to be honest with you, your story was a key component in why much of the chaos has happened. And fine, I always respect your ability to do media reporting, but you are fully aware, or probably should be aware by whoever your sources are, that there was a board meeting by the board members, and this is my debriefing to me as to examining a number of different people. And on Friday, there was an examination of the person that you highlighted that was to be the successor. It wasn't formally, but you reported it that this person was already selected. But there is a process. So, for example, if there is somebody, just like how Miss Beth was selected, the board will examine people that they think are appropriate to be appointed. They will interview them. They'll ask them if they are interested, if they agree. Then once that agreement is done by the board, then there is a process. That process then goes from my ministry to reach out to whichever ministry that individual is under. And then
And how long does
my
that take
CEO,
with
hold on for
emails?
a second. Let me finish. Let me finish, please.
Mhm.
Once they have been identified, my chief officer will then reach out to the chief officer upon which that individual works under, and then they will say, "Listen, would you be willing to allow this person to act or do a secondment?" Now, you know, on Friday the board met because I'm certain that all your sources have told you this, that on Friday, the board met, came to the conclusion that Mr. Brevon Elliott is a good option to choose as long as the ministry upon which he works under has approved his secondment. That happened on Friday. An email was sent, and you will find this out. An email was sent from my chief officer to the relevant ministry on Friday. But your story broke, whichever sources told you all of this information, on the weekend. Now, in order for the process to happen, the next chief officer upon which Mr. Brever Elliott was under will see his email on Monday morning, then the process will start. Now, this is before the end of the tenure of Ms. McField. So they will say, okay, yes, this person is interested. Whether he can be allowed to do so or not, they will give their approval. So your story was a little bit preemptive of assuming that he was going to get the position. Now, the process was in
There was no
play.
assumption, Kenneth. There was no
Okay,
assumption. The man was supposed to start from days ago. I'm telling you,
how
the correct procedure was not followed.
Sandra, you're 100% incorrect. A person cannot start until he's signed
Well,
off. Not only when
that's the
you say
question.
he was supposed to start from days ago, how can he start when Miss McField's tenure wasn't over until yesterday?
Because there was going to be
You're incorrect.
handover and a training, days of training, a week long of training with her.
Okay, so
It
that
wouldn't be a
has to
handover for
happen.
him to come in without any connection to the current acting port director. Now, I need to
Okay,
confirm what date he was supposed to start, to be honest, but to my recollection, it was either Monday or Tuesday. They had this man
okay,
slated into the schedule to start.
well, Sandra, I'm gonna unfortunately, I
We
love
will
you,
have
but
to
disagree
agree.
with you. And
Yes,
we're
we'll do
gonna agree
that.
to disagree because you can have your opinion, but you can't have your facts.
That's
So
true. I
so
always say
so
that.
okay, so that's fine, and you can
Yes.
hold me accountable to what I just said, because that's what happened. Now,
Okay.
granted, one thing about you, you always got your sources, and you may have known what was going to happen or the
And I'm not,
intention of the board, but
I'm not
but
entirely
but
psychic, but
but I must say that until it's formally done, until the deputy governor, who's in charge of the civil service, has given his approval, it doesn't happen. But just like before with Miss Beth, before she was appointed, there has to be a process. So before her official appointment on the day of, there will be a number of preliminary discussions beforehand. And what has happened is you got the sus, if I can dare say, before the preliminary appointment was done, and that's fine. That's okay. And I like the fact that you get the sus. That's why Cayman Mile Road is the best, right? But the formalities of it has not been finalized until the next day, couple days, and it was the meeting on the Friday. But that's fine.
all
I'm
right.
not going to argue here or there about that.
Let's leave it there,
What you can dispute, discuss is about what we need to fix, and I'm
Oh
happy
yeah,
to
no, there's
discuss
a
that.
lot. I mean, this is
There is a
obviously
lot.
going to probably be a part 2 on Monday, but I do want to get to some more sort of critical areas of discussion today. But as always, I appreciate you always being willing to come on and address
Yeah.
the issues head on. And I think it's fair to say that when you come back, you got to really sit down and listen carefully to what's happening at the port and ask for proof when people
No,
start.
I know exactly what's happening at the port. What is
Oh,
happening is unfortunately people are trying to control the narrative of what needs to be done that don't have the authority to do so. Now, granted, I know a lot of people may not like the process, may not like, say, for instance, the board that was selected. That's fine. People have a right to not like that. But that is the board of the day. Whether there's questions, I recognize you were saying that Mr. Wood resigned because of former members that were there. Sorry, the cold weather got me really roughed up. Um, they were saying that they didn't like members of the board. That's fine. People are allowed to have their opinions, but the process is constitutionally correct. The premier gives me the responsibility as minister. I give the responsibility to the board members, and the board members are responsible for the director, and the responsibilities of the port running is under the director. That's how it works. Now, if I have to take an examination of the board members and whether they're holding the director or anybody else accountable for their actions, then that's on me, and I will speak to the board. But the narrative of chaos to say that I'm not listening, I'm the one that sat with the employees when I was a member of opposition to hear all the true stories about what was going on. And I was not surprised by what I understand Miss Macfield found when she got there. It's just a reality that these are the things we have to go in, assess how bad it is, find them out now that we know, start the course of action to identify how we're going to solve these various different areas. And that's where we're at. It's, to be honest with you, it's just that you never found it out before I took over. That's all the problem is. So, granted, I say all of that. I know you have a lot more to talk about. I thank you
And we
so
do have
much,
quite
but
a
I
few
want
workers who are definitely sending in anonymous comments, so we'll be sharing those as well. Thank you so much, Minister. I
no
appreciate
problem.
it. We'll see if
Before I
you're
go, I
back
just
next
want
week.
yeah, I'm back. I'm back on hopefully on the 9th or the 10th.
Okay.
But I just want to ensure the public that is listening to your amazing show is that I am fully aware what's going on and things will be rectified. So please don't allow all the chaos of hoopla deter you from the fact that these things will be resolved. And hopefully a year from now, this will not even be a question at hand.
We'll
Okay.
see.
Thank you,
We'll
Sandra.
see. Thank you, my dear. All right, folks. Chaos of hoopla. It's not the hoopla that's the chaos. It's the chaos on its own that's creating the hoopla. So let's hear what some of the port connected people are commenting. And here is what they have to say. This person says, for the first time in 15 years, my husband looked forward to going to work and felt valued and heard. Beth is the best person, the best thing that ever happened to the port. And then in response to what the minister was saying, this person has responded and said, lies, with the rolling eye emoji twice. Another port worker says, oh, Sandy, Kenneth is lying, gal. That fire officer was the only person they interviewed on Friday. They called an emergency board meeting to do so. So what he's saying isn't true, gal. Keep me anonymous. He was there on Friday and he's supposed to start on Monday. And that seems to be in the wind until the feathers have blown on the wind. Because you see, our story dropped on Friday and Sunday evening. Yes, he was supposed to start on Monday. And this entire week, because Miss Beth's last day was yesterday, so these 4 days, he was supposed to be doing a handover with her. How are you going to have him come in after the current acting director has gone? So today, we have no acting port director. Y'all listening to me? This is a bunch of foolishness, and quite frankly, there are no excuses that should, I don't listen. With all due respect to the minister, he is being lied to. I don't think Kenneth is necessarily just making this up. He's not pulling it out of the wind, but he's being lied to. This board should be dissolved and you start from scratch. Let me say a thing or two about board appointments. This is why you need to be careful who you're putting on boards, folks. And it's not always about their qualification on a piece of paper. So yeah, some board members, oh, I'm highly qualified. I'm an accountant. I got a law degree. I'm this and that. Big whoop. If you have no moral compass, you have nothing called ethics about you. You don't do the right things for the right reason. You don't follow the correct steps. Then Lord have mercy. You're going to put this government into trouble. And y'all know when the PAC government is doing the right thing, I will ride with them all the way into the sunset. Yes, loyalty. But I'm loyal to my country first and foremost. You have to be loyal to the people of the Cayman Islands first and foremost, who are putting their lives on the line every single day at the port and at other police and other essential services to provide an essential service to this community. Those are the guys who get up and work these shifts that most of us would be like, child, please, night shift, never. So, I don't really accept too many excuses. I know the last government has left a mess for this government to clean up. No two ways about it. But the minister himself just said before he even got into this government, he was aware because he was in opposition talking to the members. So the second you got in, you knew the mess was there. Maybe the port should have been one of the first boards that you appointed. But again, who was appointed might have been the problem. So the former deputy, I understand, was refusing to train a person as night manager. No documentation regarding training. No one even trained to be able to order parts. And you see, people do this when they're insecure in their own position, right? If you're a secure manager, you're a secure deputy, you're a secure leader, you train people. You don't make yourself indispensable. Oh, I'm indisposable because I'm the only person who knows how to order parts. That's not how this should be working. And I'm going to talk about a lawsuit and the criminal investigation of the port, which the anti-corruption unit was also working on. That, of course, all of that has been swept under the rug. We have forgotten that there was even a criminal investigation of the port. Even to me, I was like, Lord have mercy, but Cayman Road broke that story, so I should remember it. But it's been since 2019. Try hush. Three deputy port director positions are currently vacant, and you have people acting in operations, admin, finance, and facility. And by the way, they have a Jamaican man working in the finance and facility position, and he is keen to ensure that no Caymanian will ever get that job. I'm just saying. All right. Other people who've been acting. HR manager has been acting for a year. Deputy director of finance and facility. Acting for 3 years, because remember, that was another hot mess with Mr. James Parsons, who resigned after being on this suspicious leave for 18 months. Remember, Cayman Road reported that back in 2019 as well. There were all sorts of allegations against him from staff about sexual inappropriate behavior on the job and towards the female employees. So after 18 months of being on leave back in 2019, he left. And someone has been acting in that position for over 3 years. But they want to talk foolishness, but a secondment can't go past 6 months. Boy, when people lie, they need to be careful, you know. Director, Mr. Wood was acting for over 3 years. Manager of cruise and ports, because that was the position that Mr. Wood would have been in, Mr. Joseph Wood, right? So when he moved up to acting deputy, somebody moved into that position, and they've also been acting for over 3 years. Supervisor of cruise and security, acting for over 3 years. The acting fleet assistant, she's taking home documents. Poor thing, she's not getting no acting allowance, so she probably doesn't even care, but she's been acting since February of 2019. The former heavy equipment fleet operator, Mr. Raul Gonzalez. Let's talk about this hot mess. This is back in 2018, and an investigation was launched, and he was actually arrested by the anti-corruption unit. Let us show you this article, because of course, Cayman Road was on top of it back then too. Sorry, Jared, that's don't come to you, my love. All right, remember this headline? Go to Cayman Road and simply Google Raulito Gonzalez. He is 42 years old at the time. Port worker arrested by anti-corruption unit. This is February of 2019. Thank God that Cayman Road has these stories up, Shah, because half the stuff I couldn't even remember. I was like, but wait a minute. I do remember this. Yes, honey child. Raulito. And he's still on leave, still on paid leave, right? Investigation not done all now. But here's what we know about this investigation. So Raulito and a female companion was arrested by the Anti-Corruption Commission on suspicion of corruption offenses in an unidentified probe yesterday. So this was, what date was this? February the 14th. He's worked for the Port Authority for over 20 years. CMR sources indicate that the couple's home in Newlands was raided and a number of items were recovered from the home. They've been arrested on suspicion of fraud on the government, breach of trust, conflict of interest, all contrary to the anti-corruption law. So he'd been on bail and paid leave all this time, but let me give you all a little bit of background information on what this investigation is actually all about. We've reached out to the anti-corruption unit requesting an update now that this has all come back to our minds. Because since 2019, that's a long time for an investigation to have no conclusion. So this is what the allegation surrounded, right? I want y'all to listen very carefully, because this is one bag of mix up here now. So there was a company that was set up called A's Property Maintenance. And the company was put in his wife's name, and it was a sweeping company. There was evidence found on mobile devices that Raulito and his wife were having a discussion about naming the company. Oh, yes, let's name the company this and that. We're going to put it in your name. And the, is it the brother or the son? What, they all have such similar names, Chad. I can't keep up. I think it was the brother and the wife would be the shareholders then of the company. Okay, so obviously Raulito, he not that fool. He was going to put in his name. But family company then, right? They set up this company with the sole purpose of getting a sweeping contract from government. Then the allegations were that they were inflated fraudulent invoices that were trying to defraud the port for some $39,000. He was supplied NRA contracts to his wife. So NRA does some limited sleeping, and there's some other companies as well. So he took the NRA invoices that would come into the port. See, this is the foolishness I'm talking about right now. And supplied those to his wife and said, here you go, honey. This is how you must do your invoices. Underbid them. And you set it up like this. So it looks good, blah, blah, blah. I have never heard of such a thing in my life. Given a competitor, and I mean, the NRA is government, but they do charge when they supply certain services to other entities, right? But you're giving your wife and her company these documents so that she can underbid and see how to set up the invoices, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the thing is, there's a great degree of suspicion that he could not have carried this out on his own, and that there would have been other people in the port at very high positions who would have been involved in this, but they could not prove it. When I tell y'all that it's a hot mess, I'm not joking. It is a hot mess. All right, we're not finished here because I want y'all to look at something in relation to positions, hiring, and so on at the port, right? So here's this document. Let's have a look at this. Let me do a screen share again. This is the Port Authorities Law 2020 revision. And this, folks, speaks to the procedure that people should have followed at the port when it comes to the recruitment exercise. Okay. So there's also a so this was a comment someone said. This is how the Public Authorities Law says that the recruitment of a port director is to be done. They go on to say that this method of appointing persons to be acting or employing persons as temporary employees for years is one method of manipulating the law and avoiding its requirements, it seems, as the law is silent on temporary and acting positions. In any event, the law requires them to operate an open and fair recruitment process. This was sent, this comment and this portion of the law was sent after the article dropped on Sunday. They also said in relation to Bravon, he has no clue what he's getting into, and he has no port experience. That he's in for a rude awakening. And the board needs to be dismantled, or at the very least, remove some key members who have been nothing but interfering the whole time. Wow. And this idea of temporary workers, like I said, are people acting in positions, continues and is extremely problematic throughout the entire organization. It's not just for that top position. CCTV camera footage goes missing on a regular basis. Visitor log goes missing. Let me go back now to the report. Critical communication errors. And again, for the sake of time, I'm going to skip through some of this, and I appreciate all the comments, and we'll read some of your comments here in a second. Lack of upward communication. RTG system is not efficient, and user opinion is not sought. The overseas trainers only train 2 employees. Supplier in a different time zone, which is problematic to communicate and receive help. Because whoever brought in that system didn't bother to go to a US provider, which would have made more sense in terms of support. The current RTGs have been down for a month and dispatching element is inefficient. No regular maintenance or cleaning, and they're rusting already. Wow. Wasting government money, you see. No chief mechanic outside of the department. Pallet wrapping machines needed to increase efficiency. Fuel tank purchase and is sitting on the dock that has not been used. With government, the port having to pay extra money to configure it for their use, and it's not even being used. By law, they can't power wash the dock. This is interesting. Who would have known? But power pumps were purchased for $90,000 and have been sitting unused for years. Wow. And they want to talk about government unnecessary funding and wastage of money and all this stuff. You could have saved almost $100,000 right there for a machine that, according to this, by law, you can't even use. Why would you purchase it? All this stuff makes no sense to me. Faulty brakes for months. Only got fixed when Miss Beth went in there and said, what? Faulty brakes? Y'all trying to kill my people? Fix it. Staff being threatened and all sorts of tactics to make them feel unappreciated. Bullied at work. Deputy Director of Operations talking down to staff. Disrespectful. Goes to the Portland Road location, follows no safety protocol, smokes in the mechanics area, doesn't wear a hat, not good at communicating, is acting in, here are all these roles that he was acting in: mechanic, fleet manager, scheduled vacation and time off, yard management, HR hiring, planning, and does it with no communication with staff. Staff are saying the communication is so bad and leadership acts like it's not even worth communicating with them unless it's negative. I mean, the list goes on and on. We haven't even gotten to the critical issues in human resources. Because I know our radio listeners are like, what? Let me skip through the HR part. That's about 5 pages right there, Joe. Let's talk about the legal matters. Because y'all know I have a love for the law. And I can see when something is coming your way that's going to be a big, hefty lawsuit. That's like, remember the fellow there at the prison who died because of slackness at the prison? You know the family suing government, right? I told y'all they would be. I mean, that's very logical. And I also said if government had any iota of sense, the legal division would meet with this family and preemptively settle this without having to file a lawsuit, spending more money and QCs and lawyers and this and that because you were wrong. And there's no other way to put it. Settle with these people. They'll never get their son back, but at least they'll know it wasn't in vain. And not just settle and throw money at the problem, but also talk about how this would never happen again. How because of slackness at Northwood Prison, this man was not given the proper care and attention as someone who had pre-existing conditions and then contracted COVID. Let's move on. Legal matters. Heavy equipment operator number 1. I'm not calling his name, but he had a workplace accident and the lawsuit is ongoing. Video footage has been lost. let me just say this, right? When you have an incident at the port, a slip and fall, a crane drops out of the sky, should not the person who's trying to be safety manager, HR manager, every manager in the organization immediately pull the CCTV footage and preserve it for evidentiary reasons? How does CCTV footage disappear and get lost? A tourist came here and slipped and fell. And guess what? That footage disappeared too. How is the port ever going to fight these allegations if that's what they intend to do? Or not even to fight them, but just to figure out what actually happened? They claim that they have sophisticated systems. Yeah, right. Nothing being backed up. Backup is not kept perpetually. Or even when an incident happens, you don't just pull that portion of it. No, sir. So, of course, their lawyers are going to start asking for stuff like training records. Turns out none existed. Wow. Trying to find emails about how instructions on how to operate equipment. Can't find that either. Another lawsuit. This is a disciplinary matter. Of course, these guys lawyering up. They're being ignored. Another heavy equipment operator, another lawsuit, had an accident back in 2017. Now, this guy had a resolution through workers' comp, reported no other issues, but had a history of excessive sick leave. When the new director starts inquiring about this excessive sick leave in 2020, all of a sudden he starts to complain that, oh yeah, this is related to his accident. Now he's trying to sue the government, although he got workers' comp. We just talked about the situation with Raulito. Investigation since 2019. Oh no. Anti-corruption unit not saying what they're doing. But he remains on paid leave, huh? So if they decide not to proceed with charges, is he going to come back and work for the department? Work for the Port Authority? Here's another case with a worker who claims that he needs to take medical marijuana. Lord Jesus, I can't make this stuff up. So he's taking medical marijuana, but wants to operate dangerous equipment at the port. Wow. Let me read some of y'all comments because this is ridiculous. Honest to God. Morning, Miss Morna. Nathina, good morning. Says some of them book smart, but stupid for humanity and integrity. Amigo Isleño says that's correct. Loyalty to the people and the country. Oh no, Andine, talking about running for politics in 2025. No, thank you. No, thank you. This is what happens, y'all. Every time somebody get on the radio and they start talking what y'all think is a good talk, the first thing you want to do is throw them in with the lions. No, sometimes you need somebody in the outside who can have the whip, keeping them lions in check. And I have no interest. Let me say it now loud and clear. So everybody on Bobo, TD down the street, on YouTube, Facebook, hear me loud and clear. For more reasons than one, I have, of course, now my computer gone and freeze up as soon as I start saying that, right? For more reasons than one, I have no interest in a political career again. Because I have recognized that the things that I do are so much more effective than most politicians could ever be, because I don't have the red tape. I don't have to pander to voters. I don't have to lie to you all and just make it sound good. Because like I told you before, if you don't like what I say, well, you don't have to listen to it. It's as simple as that, really. Sometimes I feel sorry for politicians, the position that they're in. So politics, no thanks, Bobo. Not for me, TD. Jonathan says, I think the unknown people at the top, even the politicians, need a crew of people that can turn a blind eye when necessary, especially in certain ports of entry. Oh Lord. Morning, Miss Bonnie. She says, talk the thing. What happened to the HR manager, Miss Sandra Barnett? She probably saw the hot mess that was going on there and said, hell no, no professional is really going to stay in this mess. Let's be honest. Right? Jared, come in for a second. I'm going to refresh the Facebook stream because I notice it's kind of lagging and it might be out of sync. But give us your thoughts as succinctly as you possibly can.
Well, long story short, there seems to be apparent inefficiencies in the Port Authority. I know it's the aspiration of the DG to have a world-class civil service, but you can't have world-class civil service if you have inefficiencies. And so I know when the minister came on, he said, long story short, he'll try to fix it. But, this is why we elected people. We elected politicians to fix the issues. Now, we understand that they can't directly be in it. But, minister, you have chief officers. If you told your chief officer to say, hey, fix the problem, I don't want to hear anything else, I'm sure it would have gotten done. The problem what seems to be here is that either the board doesn't understand their role of what needs to happen, but what has been apparent is that the board does not, the board and the senior leadership at the Port Authority does not know how to treat its staff. I noticed a racial slur was made about an hour and a half ago in your statement as to how someone had described another person in the leadership at the Port Authority. Do you think that is just going to help the environment at the end of the day? So I'm not really taking the comments that the minister is saying well. This has been a second occasion where I would say competence has been lacking in certain appointments to the board. The other issue was with the Transport Authority with one respective individual that was put on. But I think, what is commendable at the end of the day is that the minister is able to put his face in front of the issue, but keep putting your face in front of the issue and not fixing the issues, whether that is, people mistreat people in the Port Authority. But there's a clear cry for help with the Port Authority. I know he mentioned that when he was when he was in opposition, he knows about them. But you're in government now. What is the problem? Is it you have too much on your plate? Is it what is it? Because the problem is going to line your lap and by extension to the premier. Because the excuse is Sandy. There always seems to be some problem with the civil service. If it's not work, is Port Authority. If it's not Port Authority,
and let me be very, very clear here. I think a lot of these issues have been poor oversight by previous boards, and even this current board is in the business of trying to micromanage and don't really know what they're doing. So let me read some comments here. This is what one viewer said. This person said, it's not wasting government's money, it's wasting your money. Government doesn't have any money of its own. It's the people's money.
People's money.
Yes, and this is true. Now, someone has sent me a picture of cranes that are rusting. I'm waiting for that to come up on the phone here. So go ahead and forward that to me. Apparently, they're sending that to another number. I mean, I agree that the minister has inherited these problems.
But he need to fix them. That's what he there for. That's what he got.
Yes, and I mean, let's be honest. All the problems that you have been inherited. This is what I said, even when someone was trying to throw Beth under the bus, which I know it's the board that was doing that. Oh, she came here and she created a mess. She did not create anything. You can't create the magnitude of problems that are here. You cannot create in this amount of time. Even when the minister said, and I meant to take him up on that, but I'm going to talk to him some more, child. Even when he made the comment that, oh, she was tasked with hiring these positions. I'm like, really?
So much.
You want her to come in and hire people when there's so much other mess that has to be cleaned up before you can even get to that stage? Come on now. People have been acting for 3-4 years and you want to come in and hire 20-25 people as though that's going to solve the problem?
They must be in Hollywood, Cayman, Hollywood or something, because if you have so much people acting and nobody confirm, and then it goes back to the question of succession planning. We've been talking about succession
Let's
planning.
not even go there. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Vehicle and equipment operational hours are not kept and logged into personnel files. International standards don't exist. No supervision of private truckers. Some work nonstop and fall asleep or drive unsafe or unlicensed vehicles. Wow. Not monitored by the port. You have one man in a container lifting all boxes, plus operating the forklift. Heaven forbid he fall in there and hurt himself or whatever. I mean, this is just so unacceptable.
Where somebody fell or something like that, like something fell over?
Never witnessed an inspection by the safety manager or have been asked any questions or been involved with a safety inspection. You know, understaffing on the ramps. Exports and short staffing leads to back pain and stress. These poor guys are broken down at the port, both mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and otherwise. Security lacking at the construction site by the gate, where 5 lanes are being made. No consultation about the 5 lanes. Container boat comes in the cement plant. Should be shut down because it leaks and there is cement dust, which is being ingested by the workers.
That's a lawsuit.
Hours are not kept and logged into personnel files. Again, not following any international standards. We talked about the problematic radio system, either not transmitting at all or slow to transmit. You can imagine what happens if you have an emergency. Insufficient safety orientation for new reporters. No fire drills or escape route training in multiple years. Safety reports go unchecked by the safety manager. And in April of 2021, he left the scene of a fuel leak. RTG crane operators expected to go to the top during rain, thunder, lightning with no regard for allowance. Radio audience, it's going to be 9:30 here shortly. If you want to continue listening, tune into YouTube or Facebook, folks. We bid you adieu until next week, Monday. All right, folks, we're going to continue the conversation here. I didn't even play my outro song today. Sorry for the lack of formalities to the radio. Folks, my apologies for that, but this is just ridiculous. Uniforms and equipment are hard to get for the workers. They're given uniforms once a year and they only get 2 shirts. Inside label says that it's only good for 24 washes. Hard to get replacements. I mean, some of the things are so simple to fix. Some are much more complicated. But it's like, come on. No communication between customer service, the CDC, and the port to give customers information on collection and availability time. No cell phone policy. No procedure to get urgent messages from family. Remember the poor fellow there who was involved in that crane accident? He ended up dying shortly after that. And people saying it's the stress from this job that killed the poor man. Here's what staff have said. They believe that there is bugging devices in the lunch break rooms and they're being listened to through microphones. So apparently there are cameras there and they believe that they're also being listened to. Night and day shift not being rotated so that there's no cross training. I mean, it's a lot. It is a lot. So, you know, on Tuesday when we were saying that there's major areas of concerns, at the port, and the minister was going to bat for the port, saying, "No, it's not so bad. It's working just fine. We just got a couple little things that we have to clean up. A couple little things.
It working, but things need to be improved. Like just because something is
Good
working
morning, caller.
minimally, don't mean it good. Like, come on. Or they hung up or
I don't know if the call. I've had people trying to call in today, and it's been dropping. So I don't know what's going on. But let's see. Or maybe they didn't want to be on radio. Let me see here now. Let's see who else called this morning. They probably think the show is over because it ended in the radio. They probably got some more sus for us that not even here.
Mm-hmm.
Morning. Are you trying to be on the show, sir?
No, ma'am. I saved the number, but I'll have to call back.
Okay, no problem. All right. I suspect a lot of people want to talk to me off air here this morning. They've been sending their messages. Favoritism, especially with a lot of the older workers. They don't get copies of appraisals or assessments. Incidents are not properly investigated. I mean, folks, this is unacceptable. I can't. Nowhere in the world. Urgent independent audits in the following sections: operations, vehicles, equipment, safety, human resources, IT, training, risk management, procurement, Cayman Brack and Little Cayman. Well, that's the whole damn organization, folks. This is just not acceptable. Marshall says there's always political interference with a lot of things. Some of it, we, the public, just don't know. I'm not surprised at what I'm hearing now. Well, as soon as we know about it, we're going to inform you guys, because this, no. I'm not going to sit back and allow this foolishness to happen in my country and turn a blind eye. And I don't care who you are. Ali says Beth has never been a lackey. She's one of Cayman's best. Miss Darlene says, with no disrespect, Sandra, if you talk about safety, you'll get out of breath if you just talk about safety. El Rey sounds like she was doing a job too well. So they can't afford to have her come along and upset the smooth operation. Jody says you got that right. These men are overworked with no respect or fair pay. Bobby says, what is Kenneth on about? How are they trying to resolve them? Cameron chuckles when he said, we're trying to resolve this, or we're looking into it. Miss Darlene says, with no disrespect, maybe your MPs get in for and when they want to make it their business. Maybe that is so much mixed up for years now, but it'll be a hard mess to clean up. And maybe a lot of our higher ups do not want the houses to a proper cleaning, maybe because they want to run the Cayman Islands, belong to them and them only. Cannot wait, God willing, until 2025 election day. Better if it can happen sooner. Well, like I said, the mess has been there for a while. And I think that this board is not doing any justice to the situation. Paul says maybe they should privatize the department. It's an authority already, so it's already semi-privatized. Christina says world-class where? A whole lot of work needs to be done across government. This is too much. Appreciate Bobo. She says, I love Jared.
Jared, love you too.
Cameron says, if your car can't start because of the battery, you don't change the tires and try to start the car.
That's a joke.
That's true, and it makes total sense. Melissa says, I like Mr. Kenneth, but he seems to also highlight the issues but are not dealt with promptly. This is need for urgent concern, because like I said, my fear is somebody's going to lose their life at that port. And then we're going to wonder how. How did it happen? Right? Morna sending her condolences. They have lost staff recently. Heart attacks and stuff like that. Yeah, spending money in equipment that can't even be used. Norventina is joining us from, where is this? Oh, San Andres, Colombia. Buenos dias. Peter says accountability is not in the Cayman vocabulary. Well, actually, that's all they say when they're running. Oh, we want more accountability. We want this. We want. Okay, it's in the vocabulary. They just don't know how to do it sometimes. Oh, here's a good one, Sandy. Listen to how the board is always interfering in the day-to-day runnings of the port. If you read the port regulations and the port laws, you see, or it will explain exactly what their responsibilities are. But they and Kenneth have been interfering with the workers for many years. Why have they not tried to rehire Paul Hurlston to try and get the staff in port back on its feet? Not saying Ms. Beth didn't try to do her best, but her time was limited. Well, they need to open up the recruitment process and hire somebody who is qualified to do the job. They refused to raise her pay, acting fleet assistant, and was still paying the previous staff who was suspended from that post, which he may still be getting paid to this day. Check that out. And says, oh God, the cameras had speakers and Miss Beth asked for it to be muted or removed. What the hell? This person says, I was shut out of Facebook for about a minute, said it was updating and checked back. Soon working fine now. I hope you don't have court or appointments this morning. The show must go on. Girl, we are here. We are here. Okay, let me show y'all some of the pictures that are coming in of the equipment that's rusting and unsafe. Jesus, take the entire port. Not just the bus. He needs to take the entire port. All right, let's look at some rusty equipment at the port. This one came in with the following comment. Let me pull it up here, screen share. Wow. No, sir. That looks pretty bad. Morning, here are two pictures of the rusting 40-year-old cranes which surpassed their lifespan. Wow. This is an accident waiting to happen and should have been dealt with 20 years ago. Wow. That's a lot of rust.
That's
horrible. I mean, you know what rust and corrosion can do to this type of material, huh? Makes it unsafe, folks. See? And you see where it's happening at those joints?
Yeah.
Heaven forbid one of those joints gives way. Lord have mercy. Somebody gonna get killed at that port.
I hope not, but
I mean, none of us would want that.
And then it's gonna be funny. Ministers are gonna be like, oh well, I didn't know. I said, well, if you have a chief officer who has directors, who has heads of departments to look at these issues, why doesn't these things get sorted out? Because if somebody die at that port, I hope Mr. Caymanian supporter Franz Manderson and his chief officers can give a good explanation, because this don't make it make sense. Because if you have the proof in the pudding, the picture, you can see it clear as day. And I know they're probably watching. I won't hear what they're going to say, because we give money, we have supplements. Why isn't this being dealt with? We had Miss Beth Matfield running the port. She did a report, a 20-odd page report, giving an outlining, stating what the issues are. What and then we have somebody else coming in. Okay, that's good on a whatever basis, but yet this issue isn't being resolved. And this is why young people do not like voting for politicians, because we know that they're not going to do nothing Sunday. And this is the sad truth. This is the sad truth. So when a politician coming knocking on my door, you're not getting a vote. Because how does this make me feel? Because suppose my daddy would have won on that crane. You see what I'm saying? That's a problem. It seems as if people don't care. Politicians don't care. And when they say they don't interfere, well, you interfere to come say side deal comments or whatever when things aren't public.
Yeah,
So
I'm very, very, very disappointed to hear that happened, that you were calling and talking as a politician to employees at the port saying don't support Beth. If she cared about you guys, she would have taken the deputy position, which wasn't offered to her, but there has to be an open recruitment.
what's she going to
And
do?
this, that, and the next thing. I mean, I cannot believe that you politicians are doing this. This is amateur hour. And if y'all think that this kind of stuff don't get back to Mall Road, you are stupid. Of course it's going to get back to us. And what am I going to do? Sit here and not call you out on it? Are y'all crazy? Must be smoking some kind of special West Bay weed.
The premium kind.
Yeah, this one says, good morning. Happy Friday, Sandy. Preach it. All the appointments in every board is a joke, many with no moral compass. But because they're selected as batty and chimney with these politicians, they get all kind of position. Governments are a big joke. They're all the same. I'm so disappointed with a lot since the election.
And there's no
Another
code of
viewer
conduct
says,
yet.
excellent show. Thank you so much, viewer.
I have a question. I am looking at these people on the board and these ex officios. And my question is, so do these ex officios, which are from other government agencies, they really come to these meetings, look at each other and smile and say everything is good? Because I see
Here's a question from a viewer. Says to post all those documents on CMR, how the RAS, the CG, and Lonnie still have their positions as chair and deputy chair after running an interview with the preferred candidate for role and process that didn't officially exist. Oh boy.
And I would like to know if the chief officer was aware about that interview.
I'm telling you, the word on the street is this did not go through the ministry, and all them people don't have a clue.
So then how come the minister saying about he was abreast about it based on the board? So you mean to tell me the board is only talking to the minister and not to the chief officer to the minister?
Well, they're telling him procedure supposedly followed, but my understanding is after the article dropped, they then went back and tried to backtrack and do it the right way. Because if it's not, listen, if it's not done the correct way, Bravon would have to resign from his job
because he should have had
as deputy at fire service and then go apply over at the port. If that's how they want to do it. Skill analysis, succession planning. I was asking for, where's they've talked about it. Someone sent me a management meeting excerpt from 2019. So I know they've been talking about it, and now I can't see a report. I can't see any succession planning that was happening at the port. So that's why now that you have two key people leaving, and some people feel like, they're the only people who could run the port. Everybody's scared.
Everybody feel like
get somebody in who can't run the port. Listen, like most technical jobs, you can learn the aspects of the job because you're not there doing all the technical stuff. You are there as port director to be a manager, to oversee things. So you don't need to know how to run an RTG machine. That's the crane lifters. You don't need to know how to do that. But one of the most important things that you need to know how to do is how to deal and work with people.
Yeah.
I think that is why Beth McField has made such inroads since she has been there.
She knows how to talk to people.
Because she has the people skills.
And some of
all
them
the other aspects she was trying to quickly get brushed up on and to learn.
They best try hear about that woman. I don't care. They better try find something. A divine act. The sky open up. Because why should she be a deputy? If 1 month she produced a 20-page report and he said about she didn't apply. Well, minister, did you ask her? Say, hey, listen, TD.
The same two people on the board who have been complained about. Apparently, they were using people like the previous HR manager to try to undermine the port director. There was just too much stuff going on.
And this is why people don't want to work, This is why certain people don't want to work in government, because the government love act like the ice cream with popcorn when it's pure knives and snakes and all them things. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Miss Beth don't even go back because
she's done. She's left. They've already made a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're trying to ratify the decision in the correct way.
I would like to say I wish the port the best, but that rusting matter in terms of new equipment is needed. And a code of conduct is also needed for ministers, which well for
We still waiting
parliament.
on that.
But yeah, that's another day. And so forth. Is this the same board, Sandy, where there was a kerfuffle with a certain chairman that was on this board? Was it this board?
I can't remember which kerfuffle, because there's always something going on.
Where like somebody was fighting or whatever, or it wasn't this board.
Hold on. I'm not sure, but I got somebody else sending more messages. I'm not sure, to be honest. What was the issue? Do you remember?
It was a former speaker who used to head up off-reg. I don't know if this person served on this board as well.
Former speaker who head up off-reg.
I don't want to call him my name.
That's not ringing any bells.
What's his name? I won't call the name. I'll ask later.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's
But
about.
government definitely needs to look at these appointments and why there's always conflict with these appointments, and why do we keep people on from previous administration? Yes, they would have known things prior, but all that would have been needed is just a briefing to say what is it that you are covered in the past 4 years. A chairman could give a report, a training session could be done, and you start with the new members. Keeping people on from previous administrations tend to cause this level of conflict, and I don't want to be accusatory and say this is the reason why there's a lot of issues, but also what could be questioned is the training of board members in understanding their role.
Well, not even the training, but we need to start selecting better board members. And this is where I've been saying for years, selecting board members as political appointments when they're not qualified for nothing, or they're washed up overseas, wannabe politicians who still want to have a hand in the kitty and still want to be perceived to be running things. All of these things are really problematic.
There are egos too as well come into play.
Yeah, some people, they were voted out of politics for a reason. Make them stay in private sector because they go into those environments and do too much. They'll see how private sector can deal with them. Out of order, running that place, not a care for the safety of the workers. Here's a message. Tell them the crane operator certification expired over 5 years ago. When Joey was acting, it was brought to his attention, plus other courses that we need to take that would benefit the port and the country. Joey's response was, "What am I going to learn?"
I can't even laugh.
What the hell?
This could be like a comedy show.
Jesus. What am I going to learn? Hold on, I'm getting messages from all over now.
No, but like, come on, we have to do better. We have to do better at accountability. I know the PACT prides itself on that. I know
We got a caller. Let's see if they want to be on air. Caller, we're still on the live show. Are you wanting to go live?
Yes, good morning.
Hi, morning, love. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Want to share some light on the subject of the port.
Okay,
I
sure.
think you guys discussing that this morning.
Yes.
Yeah, but for quite a while now, I have a friend of mine, very close friend of mine. He works at the port. He been complaining about the treatment the workers get there from management, especially the director, Will Jacob and Joy Woods. Well, a better history with him. He's been with the port for a very long time, and it seems that they treated him real bad last year. He had to go through a very sad happening in his life where he lost the person that basically raised him like his mother. It wasn't his biological mother. And basically based on that, they refused to extend any sort of compassionate leave because they felt that it wasn't his biological mother. Without taking into consideration this is the person that he considered to be his mother. And that put him to the point that he had to get psychological help And only then, when the doctor ordering that he could not work in there anymore because his mental condition, that he could not attend work. And they wouldn't even they even questioned that. They went to as far as questioning that and not extending any sort of leave for him to get better. They basically made him use up all his vacation and whatnot. And they put a lot of pressure on him. Yeah, and a lot of pressure on him for him to come back to work clean, and they could not understand why he felt that way because that was not his biological mother. And they went to the point they even threatened him with his job on the day of this person's funeral for him to come to work. So I can put my 2 cents on that story about the treatment of those workers at port by management. They're very unhappy. They're not being taken into consideration, when it comes to the social and personal life. And obviously working at the port is a very high risk job. And you want to make sure that those guys, when they're there, they are in 100% physically, mentally condition, right? So like I say, it hit very hard. It hit home because I personally been through with this guy where I find him many days in tears and not know what to do because obviously he lost the person that raised him, the person that from day one he looked at as his mother, and all the pressure that they put on him obviously took a toll in his life, and he ended up having to get help from from professionals to get him help and recover. But like I say, we'll listen to your program, and I think so. Let me put my 2 cents in there because I know that that this is very close to him.
Wow, very sad.
Yeah.
So sad. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sure. Well, thank you for bringing that out to light because I think they need your support bringing these issues to light.
Yes.
He seems to be a lot happier now with the new director that they have.
Yeah. Well, she's gone. She's no longer there. That's
well,
it.
There you go. Well, here you go. Here's a positive thing going for him, and they let her go. So I don't know why. I don't know if they're looking at something else besides the workers itself, the well-being and the running of the port. But like I say, he in a long time he came to me recently and said, "Look, I feel a lot much better. I think the person they got there now understand us. They want to work with us and want to make something. Want to bring some positive vibe to the port. But if she's gone now, that's not good news."
Wow. Thank you so much, my love.
All right.
I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for listening to me.
Okay.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
How sad is that? Workers so stressed out. I mean,
and we were talking about mental health, but
if someone comes to you and says, the person who raised me, and this happens in Cayman especially. Sometimes your mama, not really your proper biological mother, right? And you have to give a little bit, give and take. Those people mean the world to you. Sometimes they mean more to you than your biological parents because they're the ones who raised you. They're the ones who put in the time, and you have the emotional and psychological connection to them. And you ask for a day off or a couple of days off for compassionate leave. As a matter of fact, let me address this because this is one of the criticisms that came out from the board about Beth Macfield, that she gave staff time off after the gentleman died the other day. I'm drawing a blank right now, but the one who died suddenly. She closed and shut down the port. And they're like, what's she shut down the port for? People got to operate their businesses and this and that. Well, let me say this. The reason why the port was actually shut down was because they had lost, I think this is the third or fourth person, death, either directly, people working at the port, or even Mr. Kelly, his poor daughter, Maddie, when she committed suicide. That was a loss for the port family. These guys are really, really close, and Kelly has been there for umpteen years. And so his loss, by extension, was their loss, and they felt that. So when this last young man died a couple weeks ago, they just had his funeral this past weekend, actually on Saturday morning, and I heard the port was so well represented, thanks to Beth, that on Friday she was going to, Friday at 5 o'clock, they were doing drills and practicing for their participation in the funeral. I had a friend of mine who apparently knew this man and attended the funeral, and he said the port was so well represented at this funeral, and it looked so good, and yet not a single board member was there, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But the port was The port was represented. The port employees, showed their love and support for the family of their beloved coworker. But when this guy died, because they have been dealing with so much, that there were some guys who broke down at the port. They were crying like babies. They physically could not function. So EAP came on site and said, you've got to shut this port down because this is a safety issue. These guys are mourning not just the loss of this guy, but it's a compounding situation where they've had multiple people die connected to the organization. And it's just really hitting them hard. And so, there was a requirement that the port be shut down for the day. And yet people are saying, well, money has to be made. What are they?
At what expense? At what expense? That's the problem, and people don't understand what
People don't understand. Your workers are humans first.
Impact that it can have. You can have an excellent worker, but just because they're going through a phase, depression, what have you, they need a little time to just gather themselves. We are not machines, and this has been the proverbial problem with Cayman, is that we love to make money and screw over people in the end. But as long as we make money, that is the only thing. But what Beth is trying to show, there's nothing wrong with making money.
To value your employees
do it the right way. Value the employees. Look at how they doing. How you doing? How your family? Talk to me. Call we had a little talk. Yeah, and really true. Those are the key.
You know how much more work you get out of people when you actually value them.
Yeah, Miss Sandy, let me tell you
something.
Care?
When they know you care.
I used to work for one person, boy, and they used to always say, "Jared, how you doing? How your family?" And let me tell you something, Sandy. If our Category 5 hurricane were coming, I would have come to.
I haven't even gotten to all the HR stuff. That'd have to be another day. Maybe we'll do some of those on Monday, because that's another hot mess. I'm so disappointed, and I think there's an urgent need to address these things. And at this point, I think there has to be complete transparency in terms of what's happening at the port, even as it relates to the recruitment. And like I said, if the minister has been told that the correct procedure was followed, well, apparently nobody else sent that memo over to the deputy governor or the ministry responsible for the Cayman Islands Fire Service, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know how the minister can swear on that position when everybody else is saying it didn't happen. Even his own cabinet members, they're like, we knew about this when we see Cayman Mall Road article.
And his thing about, he's the one that appoints the board. It's actually the cabinet that actually does it, but it is designated to his ministry. But I don't want no cockamamie story about, we getting the equipment and blah. We need to get equipment before equipment run down. That's the whole point. That we have all these
already run down. We need to get it before it kills somebody.
And we need to look at the behavioral health of people in the civil service and the public authorities and value them.
What this other person said, people are put in positions to do jobs that they don't know anything about.
And then we get frustrated when people come equally who don't know anything about the job overseas, and we get mad. Train the people them.
Find another person who was sending messages from way into the week. They were like, Sandy, do you even appreciate what's going on at the port? I mean, I had to do this show because the number of complaints that I have been getting have been just ridiculous.
And the simple excuse about, there's things that go behind the scenes that people don't see and know. And say, well, okay, I don't care, quite frankly. You have an administration that says it's people accountable, transparent, and competent. The one failure with this administration, Sandy, I wouldn't say if it's competent, but competent would be one of them, and transparency and accountability. There is no accountability, there's no transparency, and there's competency that's lacking in some of these things. And yes, these are issues coming from previous administration, but quite frankly,
listen, this is why when you appoint people on boards, you do it for all the right reasons, because when you start making it for a political choice, you're going to put people to run and make decisions that are going to end up embarrassing you. And it reflects poorly on you as a minister. But guess what? It's the ministers who made these decisions of who to put on boards.
Yeah.
In the end, they will have no one to blame but themselves.
Yeah, I'll be doing a report on the administration Sunday on 10 categories. So
Well, we have our annual report coming up. Here's another one. Please keep me anonymous, but these are facts that no one knows. Just informing you that this needs to be looked into. The abuse of us Caymanians, it's nothing but promises and nothing ever happens. The Port Authority is not the place people think. They do not invest in their staff and have been abusing me and a lot of other staff for years with no new job descriptions or new pay. And it's not just Port Authority, it's all through government. They hire you for one position and then you put you into another position or make you a senior without ever compensating you for it, and just keep adding more and more duties and you get nothing. And it's a horrible feeling being a Caymanian and fighting for your rights and being a hardworking, dedicated worker. But the only people who gets a raise or pay are the ones who have connections or who kisses the asses of those in higher authority. This is how port workers are feeling. It's beyond a hot mess. You know, I use that term a lot, I feel like sometimes, but there's certain situations, quite frankly, that I think need urgent assessment. Sorry, my camera keeps changing on its own. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I need to restart the computer, but you know, there's just too much. And people, I see a lot of your comments here, especially from the women who are saying that what this is really all about is they don't want a woman running the port. And let me just say this.
And that's the problem.
Let me just say this, Jared and others. It is still the good old boys network. I wake up every day and I'm very, very cognizant of that. Men don't think that women are up for the job. Oh, we can't do the job. We're not as competent as them. We get a fraction of the pay. Even when Miss Beth was acting, I understand her acting salary was some $6,000 or $7,000 less than what Joey was getting acting.
And that's a problem. That is a serious problem.
She is at an automatic disadvantage. And I do think, because these boys who are, and I'm calling them boys because a real man would not be making decisions based on sexism. You know, they're making these appointments and these decisions on, oh, she's just going to be an administrator. She can just fix HR. She can't be a leader. She can't lead the port. But look at what she's been able to do in 6 months and less than 6 months. 3 months. She went in there and gained the respect of all everybody. Of these male-dominated work environment, where these are big, strong guys working at the port. And she has managed to gain their respect with a touch of professionalism and focus on them, making them feel valued. Meanwhile, the men who are running the show, and I'm not trying to be disparaging against them, but the workers themselves are saying they were hoggish. They didn't respect us. They don't know how to treat people. So some of the things that women bring to your organizations, folks, are of immense value. And women can be and are your strategic management partners. We're not there just to bring you the coffee in your boardrooms and to be your secretary and to take your board minutes. We are there to run organizations, to build organizations from the ground up, and to build people. So, you know, I, for one, am sick and tired of, as a woman, being treated differently and put in a different class. And, you know, oh, you can't get this salary that your male counterparts had. You can't achieve this. You can't achieve that just because you're a woman and you sometimes wear a skirt. Well, I wear pants a lot of times. Give us a break. This is ridiculous. This is 2022. I know that this premier has said that he's committed to having more women in government and leadership roles.
And on boards, because there's only 2 women on the Port Authority board.
And so if that is the case, then let your actions reflect it. It's just unbelievable. Women have been running this country, but we've been relegated to running it from the back rooms and the back seats. And, you know, oh, we must be behind men in order to be able to do certain things. Enough is enough.
Yeah. And we just came out of Women's Month, Miss Sandy. You know, notably, we've had deputy chief officers like Lieutenant Colonel Bobette O'Garo. We've had, you know, my lady at HSA, Miss Lizette Yearwood. We've had competent women run public authorities, and we've had women run up
Cindy
boards.
Scotland, she's been over at SEMA for
As
years.
managing director, that lady managed that place like nobody business and make that money work. And for us to underpay a Caymanian lady who has the expertise and qualifications behind her, and we wonder why other people. Okay, I'll put it simply as this: if we don't expect foreigners to pay Caymanians their worth, that should start with Caymanians. Meaning, if you're a government agency, pay the Caymanian what they're worth, regardless if they're male or female, but especially if they're female. You pay them their worth. You appoint them to that board. You appoint them to that public authority. You appoint them to that. Look at Gloria McField-Nixon. And I do hope when that deputy governor leaves, Franz Manderson, he puts a woman there, because we had enough women there. I mean, men there, sorry. We're tired of seeing men there. Let the woman run the show, right? We've had a woman governor, Helen Kilpatrick, and she had a longer term than most male governors. So there should be no question, on women's capabilities as heads of departments or in any area. I was in cadets, and I had Lieutenant Colonel Bobette O'Garo. And let me tell you something, Sandy, that lady would run rings, not because she was a woman, but she understood how to talk to young gentlemen, how to say, listen, clean up your act. And I will attribute my success to her and to my mommy and many women, the tribal women that raised me, because they knew how to say, Jared, cut the crap. Miss Monteith, she was the principal at John Gray, and she was my deputy principal for John Gray and Tarpon. She, most of those women did a lot for me, Sandy. So when I see this thing about, and this is the thing this premier has to get right, you've appointed women in certain things, in certain roles, in certain boards, but at least there needs to be a quota where half of these board appointments need to be women. I'm sorry. And there are qualified Caymanian women out there. You're just not been picking them. And I don't think you have to ask somebody, whilst the rule is to tell them to apply and whatever. But the same energy you give to John Brown, Tom, Dick, Harry, Mary, Sue down the street, give it to that Cayman and say, listen, you know what? We don't think you have to apply, because based on your track record, you're exemplary. You're not an exception, right? You have exemplified what we're looking for. And so we want to offer. You can offer, if people don't understand contract, you can offer something to somebody.
The law has a procurement process, Jared, that has to be followed when it comes
to and it don't get followed, Sandy.
Well, listen,
it don't be getting followed.
I'm saying that the law is very clear in how they have an open recruitment. So they need to have an open recruitment. Just like Sharon Rolston was finally selected.
And I'm so glad
she's in. Ombudsman. She should have been ombudsman from before.
Must have like 5 years ago.
The first time she applied,
and she
they decided to import somebody for the position. Somebody says, Sandy, the issues for the civil service are coming from the top. They do not want a woman to be top dog at the port. The Boys Club fellows still believe that women can only be under men. France needs to address these issues. Somebody else says Big Mac must be laughing this morning and just must be watching this morning and just laughing his ass off because he told Kenneth about certain members of the board. And if they remove Jackie and Richard, whom are the old board members, then have been mentioned all along, maybe, just maybe, the port will start to become what it should be. These board members are yes men. Well, they're interfering and trying to run the board themselves. It look like they want the job.
Well, I don't know. I guess the board will abreast the minister on what is.
But I say pressure bust pipes. enough pipes must have gotten busted this morning.
Because the minister going to say, "Oh, Sandy, well, I didn't see them pictures." So if minister, you don't go down to the port, and this is the thing with ministers, Sandy. When they get into these positions, they go and see everybody. You see, if I was a minister, I surprise visit. I said, boom, surprise visit. Talk to me. What going on here? I'd have tour the place without people knowing I come in. People want to see Mr. Kenneth Bryan, minister for Georgetown Central. That you show up. Talking and showing up is one thing, but you actually show up. You look, go toward the port. You say you were
Here's
there in
another one.
opposition. Go and look.
Problem is, Miss Sandra, is they always want to hire new people, but they never tend to the current staff who've been running the port for years. They have me and certain staff who they have given you duties, senior duties to, and a whole lot of different job roles and position. But they keep them under their old job role and position without giving them a new job description and matching salary. They do this to keep paying you the same pay, and they just keeping us. And the problem is, I love working at the Port Authority. I love my job, but my morale is low and I feel highly undervalued. I'm a Caymanian born, and I should not have to fight for over 10 years to have my issues sorted out and compensated. It's like they don't care. The truth is, they don't want the staff to have a voice. They want us to stay hush hush and just allow them to do as they please. Miss Beth Macfield was a wonderful person and the first person who came into the position and listened to me and was fighting for me and trying to sort out my issue. But just because she's getting headway, they got rid of her. It's like they don't want anyone in charge who is for the staff. They seem to don't want us to be happy, and they want to keep our morale down. Well, I can tell you that I don't know where these board members have been working before, but keeping staff morale down is not a way to foster a safe and productive environment. Somebody else says here, I think you opened a can of whoop-ass for Kenneth. He's going to do this and do that and tell me that he accomplished what he was going to accomplish for the port staff. Ms. Beth came to do what she was told to do. And because she made a comment that she was for the staff, the board started disliking her because she wouldn't be the way they wanted her to. Now, Kenneth refuses to answer the staff when they try to reach out to him. Now, you know that means that that means he's turned 160 degrees on his words. What the whole island needs to understand, and I mean understand, if the port does not operate, what will happen to these islands we call home?
And the port is the most important facet of Cayman, Grand Cayman, because 90% of everything we eat, nyam, sleep, drink comes through that port. And you have got to get the right person, and you have got to get the right minister. I don't care if he can talk good, but can you do the work as the director, as the minister?
Another high-ranking government official says you're right. You're right about secondment. She should be working there. She could be working there for years on secondment, as others have.
Of course.
But other people were convinced that she should go back to central government. Anyway, folks, somebody said, just try to get in contact with some of the ministers. Wish you luck. Folks, listen, we've highlighted some issues here this morning. Jared, thank you for your contribution.
Yes, thank you for having me, Sunday.
And Bobby says, Jared, understand the open recruitment law. I know he keeps mentioning appointing people. Yeah, you can't just appoint people. It has to be a fair and open recruitment. Even what they've done, I think they can appoint interim people, as one person said. This is how they're trying to circumvent the law. And they are clearly doing that with Mr. Bervon Elliott. But what I would like to say, folks, is this. This issue has now been highlighted. The minister can no longer say he doesn't know how bad it is. And if he never saw this interim report, Minister, I will sneak a copy of the interim report on your car windshield. Just tell me where it's going to be parked. I'll make sure you get a copy of this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put this on my little highfalutin scanner and scan it all in and share it for the entire world to see. Since y'all want to throw Beth Macfield under the bus and talk about she wasn't doing anything for the time that she was there, read the report and see who really might not have been doing anything. Don't throw civil servants under the bus. When they're wrong, they're wrong. But when they haven't done anything wrong and they are being made political pawns in your little chess games, I will not stand by and allow it to happen. When they're not being supported psychologically, emotionally, they're being talked to, downtrodden, being called the N word, the B word, the this, that. No. Not today, Bobo. It not gonna work. Right? I stand here every day and I defend people, all sorts of people. And if it means that I have to defend some civil servants when necessary, then that's going to happen as well. You cannot impugn someone's character. as has been done to poor Beth, and think that they're lucky it's her, because it wouldn't have been me. That's why I'm not a civil servant, because you're not going to treat me like that and have me just walk away and have nothing to say to defend my own character. It's a shame that this whole so-called appointment has been fraught with political interference, when the politicians themselves want to get the word out there loud and clear that, oh, no, we don't get into politics. Then you should be calling any staff at the port, telling them who to support and who not to support. It's not acceptable behavior. We're going to be working on a report card, for the elected members, all of them, backbenchers too, because half them not half, but 90% of them not doing nothing and still getting paid $8,000 plus a month. None of it is acceptable. 3 years is going to be here before y'all know it. It is literally right around the corner, because they got to fly by really fast. And there are people out there already playing political games. I hear it, trying to unseat this one. Yeah, get ready to run against this one. You better come good. Because every single one of you, whether you're a current MP, you want to be an MP, whatever, you're going to be held to the same standard of accountability. So while you're a hot mess in your personal lives, half y'all don't want to pay your bills, and you don't want to treat people right and whatever, and then you want to jump up, talking about you want to run for politics and represent this country. You see, that's where the issue lies, is we are electing a lot of people with no moral compass into positions that they should never hold. So what we need to start doing is having better selections at the polls. Stop putting them in, because once you put them in, it's hard to get them out. And then they start, in the words of the minister, they start creating chaos. Standards have to go hand in hand with accountability. And so I'm going to beg the minister upon his return to take a serious look at this situation as it relates to the port. He is now aware of how bad it is. And I will personally ensure that he gets a copy of this and whatever else comes to me. Enough is enough. The people of this country suffer at the hands of a few decision makers who are making poor decisions, wasting, as that one listener said, our money, the people's money, with no degree of accountability. Who's holding the boards accountable for their shenanigans and their bad behavior? That's why you be careful who you put on these boards. Remove this board entirely. Shut it down. Take them all out and start from scratch. No more political favors with board appointments. I don't care. I've said it. Aliano said, wow, Friday hot. Sandra, call them out and hold them to the fire. It is what it is. And I'm able to hold them to the fire because I'm not currying favor with nobody. When you hear workers talking about how depressed they are, Andrew says, so true, Sandy, you're hitting the nail on the head. How can we sit back and allow a department of some 200 people to be mistreated, where the vast majority of them, and some of them scared to sign that petition. They probably all want to sign it. They are sick and tired and fed up. We must listen to them. They deserve a voice. You don't get your voice taken away from you just because you're a civil servant. Right? You don't get to be mistreated, underpaid, undervalued, because you're a civil servant. The days of slavery have long gone. Shape up. Port board, if you had any decency about you, the vast majority of you should be resigning after this show today. But I know you're not going to do it. So I'm going to call on the government at the highest levels to remove these board members and start over. The staff have no confidence in them after this fiasco. Nathina says, boy, Sandy, you're preaching beautifully. Thank you, my dear. Hi, Jay. The board members are the problem, says Andrea. And that's what I'm saying. Take them out. Shut off the lights. Start over. Andrea says they should all resign. And you know what is so funny? The people that I've heard on the board that want to resign are actually the good ones. Isn't that always the case? The good ones don't want their reputation to be tarnished by the bad apples. So they're the ones who are like, oh God, we're going to resign. When you should be the ones who are staying there to try and make sure that this foolishness stops. So right now, if nothing is done about this board, this government runs the risk of having good people resign. Marshall says, stop appointing friend as board members. Yes, don't appoint people to board members because you feel sorry for them. Appoint them because they're qualified, they have a good moral compass, and they know how organizations work, and they can do a good job. Some of y'all appointing people who couldn't find themselves out of a crock of sack. What call again? Crock of sack, right? I think that's what it's called. They couldn't find themselves out of one of them. And there's only one way in and one way out. They're useless. They've never run an organization. They don't have no clue. They don't understand their roles and responsibilities. They're just there to get a free lunch meal once a week, look at each other, and try to interfere with the good operations of these different organizations and collect a stipend. I agree with Paul. They must be waiting for something horrible to happen. And I'm not trying to put my goat mud on the port because God knows we don't want that. But they better fix these things as a matter of urgency. Sometimes I am left utterly speechless of just the lack of everything that is going on. Get it together and do it as quickly as you possibly can. Because we're going to be here continuing to watch. And I want every single port member, y'all listening, every member of staff, please take down my number. The ones who have it, share it with everybody else. And anything going on at that port, y'all message me. I don't care if the board sneezed too hard and spreading their COVID germs on you, you message me. One person says, thank you, Sandy, for opening up these issues for the port staff today. We really appreciate this. And a word for Miss Beth McField. You made us feel like we were the champions you've called us. Thank you for your short time at the port and the accomplishments you had made for us. Wow. Wet paper bag. Yes. Can't find, that's what I meant to say. Crocosaka, whatever we call it. But wow. You can imagine? 6 months, she made such a difference. Imagine if the woman was there on a permanent basis, what could be done for staff? Another person says, good morning. I love your show this morning. I'm a CBC officer working at CDC, which is Port Authority Industrial Park. And it's all facts what you're saying. These young boys are being treated like shit. And this has been going on for far too long. But you like Port is the only problem. You have to check out CBC. We're the favorites and ass kissing that get positions. Oh, really? Well, I fired one shot this morning, and let it be a warning to all government authorities, agencies. I don't care who you are. Y'all be happy. Oh, let Sandy talk about the DART organization, talk about the Ritz, talk about this one, blah, blah. And meanwhile, the government over there, when I say the government, I'm talking about the civil managers and civil service and authorities being able to run their own shit show and nobody not paying attention. Well, if we can hold private sector accountable, we are sure as hell going to hold y'all accountable too. Yes, I have the letter with all the signatures. Marshall, he said he hasn't heard that word crock-a-sack in a long time. Look, yeah. The letter came on the windshield too. With all the signatures, folks. See them there? Signatures. Pages worth. More signatures. See that? More signatures. And more signatures. Right? More signatures. And then some person, I don't know why this person skipped to be. He must have, 100 must be his lucky number, because he went all the way to 100 and signed that at number 100. So he skipped a page and a half. But more would have signed it, but they're afraid, you know. They're afraid now what a board gonna do and if they're gonna be targeted even more. Come on now. Enough is enough. We'll put the article up on the website, folks, but I'm really hoping that the government is going to take this situation seriously. Rosie says Beth should be appointed as a board member. Pass a resolution to remove the 2 problem directors. No. Don't put her in as a board member. She has been effective exactly where she was. So they need to open up an open recruitment process, allow her to apply with other candidates and give her a fair shake. Knowing that she's now been in the organization for 6 months and has seen and is familiar with a lot of the issues, and I suspect she's only touched the iceberg. If this woman can write an 18-page report, we haven't even gotten to the HR problems yet. We can deal with them on Monday. But if she can do an 18-page report, folks, in just a month of being at the port, this is an interim report. I would love to see the final report after 6 months. Hello, beautiful Mary. She says, and you got people talking about not being thin-skinned, but take things personal and try to keep people down just because they can't silence them. This friend BS needs to stop. Jared says they don't want port workers to go on strike. Well, you do know that they were talking about that on Monday, right? That's why I mentioned it on Tuesday. The port workers have been discussing it. Do you know how this country would be crippled if the port workers actually strike? They don't know how much power they have. I tell them right now, I'm not encouraging it because God knows I still waiting on UPS to deliver one little package from Canada almost a month later. When I mentioned in the show, they called me and they said, oh, we need an invoice. I said, really? How long the package been in Cayman? You never asked an invoice because you heard me talking about it on radio? Oh, no, I still not get my package. But sometimes you do not know your own power because you have been downtrodden for so long. You've been pushed aside. You've been pushed down. You've been told that you have no value. You have no voice. Nobody's listening to you. This board is not the one who's in a power position here. Because if every one of those port workers said enough is enough, took off their safety vests and threw that down on the ground and said, we're going to strike, you come and see how quickly this country would come to a halt. Do you guys appreciate what the port does? Do you understand everything from cruise ships to food and supplies that are coming into all 3 islands? All the containers that are processed are food. Supplies that hit the grocery stores and every other store in Cayman, cars and vehicles. We don't get nothing into this country legally that does not go through our port of entry. And yet we can't value them. Tell me how does this really work? You make them go on strike for 1 day. And then you will see how ineffective this board is. Before it comes to that, Minister, because I'm telling you, that is exactly where you're heading. Carmelie says they need to do it. Before it comes to that, because we're not here to cause chaos. We're trying to fix chaos. But if you don't fix it, people have enough, and enough is enough. This person says, we can't strike, Sandy. A few years ago, we talked about it, and they made good and damn sure to add that to our employee handbook and in the law. You can't stop people. You can write it in the law you want. What are they going to do, Florida? Fire all of you? This is where you need to know your value. So collectively, you get together, and if every single person strikes, tell them to replace you. Tell them to go out there and find new 100 and something staff members to work at the port who have experience and knowledge. But you see, this is a scare tactic now. Oh, you can't strike. Really? They can put that in your contracts all they want. If everybody strike, they will have no power to enforce that contract. I'm not suggesting that be done. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that people do not even know their power. And when you don't know your power, of course, people can take advantage of you. It is what it is. That's why I stand up every single day, and I'm trying to be the voice for other people because those poor people are so scared. But there's only so much I can do. And I encourage you to find your own voice and take a stand for yourselves. This viewer just said, girl, your show was so hot this morning. I had to take the phone to the bathroom with me. Didn't want to miss a thing. What a mess. Mm-mm. People are afraid. Please keep me anonymous. Don't mention my name, but this is what I want to say. I want to share these thoughts. Even CBC. Remember the other day there was a arrest at the airport, somebody bringing in drugs. As usual, when we posted up, first thing they wanted, who was taking this picture to send to Mall Road? Our school children are being beaten up every single day. That's another topic coming next week, the bullying. And you know what is happening with that situation? Oh, don't go to Mall Road. Don't tell them nothing. We don't want them to know what's going on. Just yesterday, a parent sent me another thing. The kids are like, we're being threatened. There was another incident entering through the side gate because the gate was open. Cross security drove down to where the bus is. These are people who do not attend John Gray. Just did this. And what are they doing? Telling the kids. This is what a parent said. I heard a lady telling one of the kids to calm the situation down because they don't want to and they don't want it to end up on Mall Road. Really? There's already been a security breach last week with a potential knife on campus. Police called again for another security breach, another unauthorized person on campus. And what they're worried about is Mall Road finding out. Don't tell Mall Road. Don't send pictures. Don't do this. Don't do that. Because apparently we live in a society where if it's not on Mall Road, it never happened. If the media doesn't report it, oh, well, it's not really happening. So we can continue to pretend and keep our necks deep in the sand. That's why we have so many issues in this country, because there are too many people who are more than willing to turn a blind eye and to ignore everything that is happening. Because if the media don't report it, well, it never really happened. No, sir. Mary says Beth is a strong and very honest person. She's a woman, and one won't be able to puppet, so she won't be a favorite. From all I've heard, she's done a phenomenal job at the port, continues to shine like the star that you are. And here's the thing. Even when Beth is in the core civil service, when she was over at immigration, she was causing waves over there because a certain private school wanted to get all these work permits approved and never bothered to entertain any of the Caymanian applicants. And when she turned them all down, the last government, including the MPs for Red Bay and Prospect, hauled this woman up. Oh, you can't turn down work permits for this school. You have to approve them. And she said, no, they've not followed the law. They've not done it right. We have qualified Caymanian teachers and they have not looked at them. I will not be approving these work permits. And you know what they did though? She got moved from immigration, I bet you. Civil service never had her back. So she probably appreciates to an extent what these workers are going through when nobody has your back. Political interference there too. Y'all know who you were calling this woman up, dictating to her, Austin and others, that you must approve these work permits. Y'all think that I don't know her, what? Look, yeah, I wasn't born yesterday. And even before the Mall Road existed, there was enough going out in the streets, and there would be enough that I had heard. That is the very reason that Mall Road was created, folks. Because enough of the hiding of everything. John says a lot of people think that the port is a dream job until they get inside, and then it's pure slavery and mistreatment. Wow, this is disgusting. Thank you, Miss Bonnie, joining us from East End. Andrea says Cayman port workers are some of the lowest paid in the world. And yet look at the job that they're doing. Look at what they're responsible for. If they start to turn a blind eye to a lot of things, y'all be surprised what be coming through your port. Anyway, folks, I think I have said somebody's calling for unions. I don't know what the overarching solution will be. Because again, so many people who are so afraid, who's going to start up your union? Go ask Dr. Frank. He might still be interested in that job to become a union boss. Like, seriously? Some days I sit down and I think about what is the future of this country going to be like for my daughter? Forget about me, right? I'm already middle age, halfway there, if we're lucky. But what are we building for the next generation, for our children and their children and their children's children? What kind of mess are we leaving them to inherit? The previous government was in for 2 terms. They didn't do anything at the port, right? They didn't fix any issues. They were too hyper-focused and giving the people a cruise ship expansion project that they never wanted. So that's what they're busy doing, fighting down the people of this country, getting prepared and ready to destroy the environment. Now, this government got elected and we all have high hopes. But if you believe for 1 second that we're not going to hold them accountable and hold their feet to the fire and their behinds while we're at it, you can think again. Not today, Bobo. It's not gonna happen. And they all know it. Listen, I have made my position crystal clear. I can like you as a person. I don't necessarily have to like you as a politician. And I don't have to like all the decisions that you're making, because if they're not in the best interest of this country, we're going to have a problem. Every time I speak to the premier of this country, he says to me, Sandy, you have to do your job and you have to hold us accountable. And if that means calling us out for poor decisions that we're making, then by all means, because he knows that can happen anyway. I don't need his blessings to do it. But he fully understands. The Minister of Tourism and Transport understands. All of them should understand where I come from. And I don't take it personal. I call him out today. By tomorrow I can say, come Bobo, come Kenneth, let's sit down, have lunch when you come back. But your job, right? Holding you accountable for your job of service to the people from the political realm is a whole different something. So the two not gonna get mixed up now, you know. Don't get it twisted. Fix it. It's your job to put the people in place who can fix it. And I'm telling you, the people that you put in place at this board, but this Lonnie guy, isn't he the same one who was in court the other day for breaching COVID or some foolishness? They don't even have respect for the laws of this country. We putting them on boards? Jesus Christ. Anyway, Miss Bonnie, thank you, my dear. She said, I guess they don't know what a principled person her dear mother was, rest in peace, dear teacher, Miss Flores McCoy. Anyway, folks, it's 10:41. I'm sure y'all have some work or something that you need to be doing. Please get to it. I've got a couple strategic meetings myself planned for later on in the afternoon. Plus, it's half a day at Gianna's school, so I'll be in mommy mode later on in the day. You know, I'm working hard. I'm trying to make every sacrifice in the world to make sure that my daughter, on a personal level, will have some opportunities. But you know, sometimes I'm like, I killing myself working and doing what I need to do. But if the government doesn't create an environment in which she can flourish and all of her children can flourish, it's like, what is the point? I killing myself for what? I might as well pick up and move back to the States. Well, you know, not going to Jamaica. No offense to my Jamaican family, but you know. But that's I can't run. What's the sense of running? If I wanted to go back to the States, I could go. But what is the sense of running? This is my country. I was born here. My navel string must have buried in some bush in Georgetown Central. You understand? Maybe they throw it out Georgetown Hospital. I don't know. But this is my country. Have pride in all things Caymanian. I wear almost on a daily basis. I can't stop wearing my little coat of arms. And by the way, big shout out to David. He made me a little matching ring of the coat of arms with diamonds. And when I wear it, people are like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. I love my country. God, when I lived overseas, you don't know as a child how oh my God. I was like, oh, I miss Cayman so much. I miss green mangoes. I miss like everything that makes Cayman what it is. We have so much potential as a small island nation, but we've got to get it together. It can go so wrong so quickly if we sit back and we allow these failures. You know? No, man, we can't do it. All right. I'm going to leave it there. Somebody says, Sandy, don't make your pressure go up today. You're getting all worked up. I'll go check it after the show. Might have to take a little extra tablet then today. Have a good weekend, folks. Be safe. Can we not have any drinking and driving for one weekend? Just one weekend where if you drink and drive, not drink, if you drink, call yourself a taxi. Stop killing people in the roadways of these islands. That's another hot mess. Folks, I love my people. I love y'all, despite the fact that half y'all, 60% of y'all are really dysfunctional with all kind of issues. I still love you. The only ones I don't love are the child molesters. Can you blame me? But everybody else, pretty much I love. But let us work together to steer this good ship in the right direction. We have to do it. You guys have a fabulous weekend, please.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Find us on Facebook and YouTube for the latest show episodes, including special community interviews and much more. Follow Cayman Marl Road on Facebook and YouTube for all your community happenings.